Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 77 of Millennial Gaming Speak. I am here this week not with Max Roberts because Max is now engaged, and I told him he needed to take off the entire weekend to be with his new fiance. So he's doing just that. He should be back in a couple weeks. We may have some new guests upcoming here over episodes 77 and 78. And I am hearing myself in my headphones, and that is my fault. But with us this week is none other than Alex O'Neill from Irrational Passions. Alex.
Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Hello. Nothing much. How are you doing? This Max character getting engaged sounds like a dirtbag.
Yeah, he's a big old jerk like that. I think all my friends are engaged now. All of the ones I talk to with frequency, at least, which is
really
odd.
Aren't you like 22?
I'm 22. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like a nightmare.
Like, it's a little bit strange.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm good. I'm in a good spot where like no one I really know is engaged. So
are you even dating anybody? You seen any ladies or boys?
I'm flying solo.
You're flying solo?
I have been for a while. So.
I've been in the same boat. I don't think I've dated anybody since 2013, something around there. So, but it's not too bad. No. I like it. It gives me more time to play video games and screw around and do dumb stuff that I like because I'm a real selfish person.
Yeah, so like I spent way too much time working, so I guess it makes sense where I'm at right now. So
it's not too bad. But yeah, Max will be back probably 79. I think he's gone next week too, and I've got another guest lined up next week that you'll hear about when it comes time for that. But this week it's going to be a way more laid back episode. I really don't have a whole lot planned. I figured me and Alex would just sit here and get to know each other because
just hang out.
Just screw around. Just one of those podcasts where we don't talk about much. Keep it on video games, obviously. But Alex was kind enough to have me on one of his top 10 episodes with Irrational Passions a few weeks ago, and that was a whole lot of fun. So we've kind of been talking back and forth since then. But thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It's
no problem.
Nice
you said, hey, who wants to podcast? And I'm like, I just don't know how to turn this off. So let's do this.
I've become really a lot more addicted to it lately. We recorded, I think I recorded like 4 episodes like a week or two ago. And I was like, no, this isn't enough. I need more every week. And I know you're just coming off of 30 within 2 weeks or something crazy like that.
30 in 3 weeks. So
30 in 3 weeks.
I think I did 32 shows total. I didn't have to edit all of those shows. Some of those shows were like different shows that I'm on as well.
Yeah.
In 21 days. So that was a lot. And people can listen to that stuff now. The Irrational Passions Game of the Year content, which I put essentially my whole life and soul into. But I think it's a good swath of different people, different voices, and I think it's a good group of shows. So
it is. I tried to listen to as much of them as I could with my normal weekly podcast rotation, but definitely got in there and listened to a couple people who I was familiar with. Like we had Peter Spezia on our show last week, so it was cool to go in there and listen to his episode for a little bit. And then I popped in and listened to some other people who I wasn't as familiar with. So it's always nice to see the swath of different opinions people have about video games. So that was fun. And you had your own top 10 list recently that you posted, and I enjoyed watching that.
Yeah.
So that was fun, but I think that's finally, you're probably glad to finally be leaving 2016 in the past now, aren't you?
Oh yeah. I'm done, man. We're good. Let's go. 2017. Let's rock. I mean, like all the video games are coming out on next Tuesday. So like it begins immediately.
I was going to ask you about that. So what are you picking up this week, if anything? So we've got Resident Evil and Kingdom Hearts 2.8 are coming out this week.
Yeah.
Is there anything
also
else?
Tales of Berseria?
Oh, yeah,
I'm a big Tales fan.
And then Yakuza 0.
And Yakuza 0, which everything I've heard about Yakuza 0 makes me want to play Yakuza 0.
Yeah, same here. The reviews are really good.
Yeah, it's just like I've never played a Yakuza game.
No, me neither.
But I've always appreciated it from a distance, and this seems like a good first one. That's what everyone who loves Yakuza is telling me.
That's what I was hearing. I don't know, man. I don't know if I could deep dive into that. I hear they're long games too, like way longer than you would anticipate.
Yeah, they're like open world games. So
yeah, but it's even for open world standards, I think they're like, I've heard upwards of like 80 hours.
All right.
And
okay,
I don't know if I can do that.
I got plenty of time, clearly.
So yeah, I'm picking up Resident Evil. we'll see how that is.
Yeah, I've heard through the grapevine that game might be all right.
I've heard the same thing. I saw a couple reviews leaked today, which is
Okay.
always sketchy to me when
Yeah.
that happens, but it looks promising. I like the demo. I don't know if I'll get myself to play it in VR or not, even though
God, no.
that's
God,
why
I would die of a heart attack.
I bought the headset for that though. Like I told myself in October, I was like, all right, if I buy this, I'm going to play Resident Evil. And now it's here, and I'm trying to talk myself out of it because I think
You got to give it a shot. Like you owe it to yourself to give it a shot.
I will. I played it at PSX, and I also played it at home too because the same demo that was at PSX is here, and it
scared the shit out of you.
It scared the crap out of me. Yeah, yeah, it really did. And it's the sound design, man. It's when you wear the headphones with the headset. That's what it is. And once I took those off and I was listening to it just through the TV, it wasn't that bad. But
Yeah.
it's
When you're in it, man, you're in it.
it feels like something's behind you the whole time, and you don't want to look around. And that's what's cool about the horror games with VR is that you have to physically turn your head and turn your body when you want to look behind you. I mean, you can use the thumbstick, I guess, but
Yeah, but like
not.
that's not as fun.
No, it's not. It's fun getting scared, but not to the point where you're not wanting to play a game anymore. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll probably try it out for sure. I don't know what it's gonna be like though.
It's a big first Tuesday of the year, like first like real Tuesday into the games releases, and I want to get all 4 of the major games coming out on that day. I'll probably end up just getting Tales and Kingdom Hearts and waiting on other things, but I'm a big Kingdom Hearts fan.
I'm looking forward to it. I've talked a lot on this show about how I've been wanting to go back and play 1 and 2 again. It's for probably like 2 or 3 years, and I've just never got around to it.
The HD remasters?
I owned them both for PS3 actually, and I never played either of them. It was just one of those games. I just bought them both and just never got around to it. And now they're both coming to PS4, so I sold them, and now I'm gonna buy them again because I'm crazy, I guess.
Yeah, because you're right in Square Enix's pocket. Like they're like, gotcha. Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, which is like they did the Final Mix version in Japan. It came to us with the 2.5 remix. Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix is one of my favorite games of all time.
What did they add to it? I know there's the main thing I know they added was the Roxas battle. That's not a cutscene this time around, and that's an actual boss fight.
It's a very difficult fight. They added critical mode, so that 4th difficulty, which is hard, and like there's a special version of critical mode you can opt into where you gain no experience. So level 1 critical mode, just trying to survive that. All of the organization members you can fight. So all the ones that were in the Chain of Memories, the between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, they reimagined them for Kingdom Hearts 2's combat system. They all have like gimmicks and hooks to each of their fights. So you can fight all 13 members, and then at a point there's a new dungeon that opens up that you can go through and then fight these data recreations of all 13 members, including the final bosses that you fight. And they were like harder versions of all of them. They added a lot of new synthesis stuff, and the big thing was the Terra's remnant armor from Birth by Sleep. You can fight him. Yeah, you can fight him as a boss, his armor from the end of his story in Birth by Sleep, which is one of the craziest boss fights I've ever experienced in a 3D video game. There's a stream that's actually uploaded on the Irrational Passions YouTube channel of when I finally beat that fight, and I streamed for about an hour, and at the end I finally beat it, and you can see the attempts leading up to it. It is the most bonkers fight I have gone through ever, and I love it. It's one of my favorite boss fights. It was in a very Souls-like way. It was like you finished it and you felt just so satisfied, just like this catharsis of like, oh, I did it finally. So there's like a whole bunch of secrets and a whole bunch of stuff in that game like that. It's a significant amount of content they added.
That's cool. I'm actually really looking forward to it. I'm wondering how I will be at those games now that because it's been, I think the last time I played Kingdom Hearts 2 or one of the main Kingdom Hearts 1 or 2, I think the last time I played them was grade school. So I'm wondering if I've gotten better at video games in that time span, because I could never beat Sephiroth. I could never beat the Ice Titan from 1. I could
Yeah.
never any of those like harder secret bosses, the clock tower ghost thing
Yeah.
from the first game. I could never beat any of those, and I'm
For
wondering
me,
if I
like,
can now.
the one doesn't hold up as much for me, because like it's a lot more stiff. It's a lot more traditional. They updated
Yeah.
the controls in the 1.5 remix, so like in one originally you had to use the L2 and R2 to change the camera to move the camera around. Now they just mapped it to the right analog stick. They did a lot of little things to kind of update it, but it's still like pretty stiff. So that's a harder game to play. I know a lot of people that prefer 1 over 2, but 2 holds up, man. That game feels like a dream.
I'm definitely in the 2 camp, and I've played them both. I think twice each, but even then, it's been probably close to a decade since I have played them.
There's the other thing they added in 2 is a new drive form, like the transformations.
Yeah.
And 2,
Yeah.
they added a new one called limit form that you can do anytime because you just do it by yourself. You don't need Donald or Goofy around. And it turns you into essentially Kingdom Hearts 1 Sora and adds a bunch of like the special abilities, like the top tier abilities from Kingdom Hearts 1, like Sonic Rush, like the stabbing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Strike Raid and things like that. And it's awesome. And with that, like the ability you gain by leveling up that drive form is dodge roll. So they kind of backdoor re-added dodge roll into Kingdom Hearts 2 because it was like the noticeable omission from that game.
Because they kind of replaced dodge roll with the whole counter system.
Yeah, the counter system and like the dash, but having dodge roll back in that game, just 10 out of 10, man. Ooh, it's a dream.
You would get along with Max pretty well. Max is a massive Kingdom Hearts fan. He has such a mark for that series. I make fun of him all the time for it on this show. Anytime he says that there's a certain game that he doesn't like, I always make fun of him and tell him that there wasn't enough Donald or Goofy in it for his taste. So
All right, he's less of a scumbag. He's okay in my book again.
So is 2 your favorite in that series then?
Yeah. Birth by Sleep is close, but
He stands by Birth by Sleep. He
Yeah.
preaches Birth by Sleep's.
It's a great story in Birth by Sleep.
I liked it. It was one of the better PSP titles, if not the best. But
Yeah.
it's
no Ape Escape remake. I mean, come on.
I've never played an Ape Escape.
Oh, jeez. That's all right. You and everyone else.
There's so many games that I just never got around to ever. I've never played a Crash game.
Okay. I mean, you didn't miss much.
No,
So-
I don't think I did either.
Crash 2 and 3 are pretty good. But
I'll play them now that they got that collection out. We'll see how it holds
yeah,
up.
in
But
4K. Yeah, so
4K, I forgot about that.
never forget. 4K. I always love like driving the terrible buzzwords that PR companies think of into the ground. It's just the way to go.
I'm wondering when's that? Is that this year?
Yeah. Summer, I believe.
Oh yeah, it's like $40 too. I remember that Amazon listing for some reason, even though I don't remember the 4K, but I remember how much it cost.
They're like HD versions of PS1 games.
Did you play it at PSX?
I didn't play it. I watched someone play it, and that was enough for me to remember.
It was
that Crash
pretty
1
stiff.
is a bad game. Yeah.
It was not very good. I did not care for it that much. Well, I'll probably force myself to get through them. That's one of those games that I really hope has like a solid trophy list to like encourage you to go back to it, because playing the game itself is not going to do a whole lot for me in 2017. But if there's a bunch of trophies I can check off while I'm going through it, like, yeah, that's totally fine with me.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that is. Sticking on Kingdom Hearts for just another second. Have you played, what's the 3DS one?
Dream Drop Distance.
So that's one of the only ones I haven't played. I've played Birth by Sleep, 1, 2,
Chain of Memories?
Chain of Memories. I got to Axel and then I got stuck when
Chain
I
of
was a
Memories?
kid. Yeah. I couldn't beat that boss fight. I
I
never
never finished that. So
I never played Chain of Memories though.
I never finished it until the remix, the HD
on PS3.
Chain of Memories. Yeah, that game's actually really good. Like I think the gameplay is a nightmare, but I hate card systems. So
Yeah.
But like the story that they tell in that game is actually really great. So, Dream Drop Distance is like essentially the equivalent of Chain of Memories. So it's as important as Chain of Memories is, which is to say quite important. Unfortunately, but it plays really, really well. It is a fun playing video game. I'm really interested to see how they adapted that to PS4.
That's what I'm looking forward to too.
Yeah, there's a lot of touchscreen stuff in that game, like a lot of special moves you could do through the touchscreen. I'm sure like they've just mapped it to a button or like the touchpad or something. But yeah, that Dream Drop Distance in a lot of ways is where the story went a little too off the rails for me, and a lot of people, because like I don't want to ruin it, but they added like a new layer to everything that I'm like, oh, why'd you have to go here?
I actually think I know partially what you're talking about. Because that's the thing. I never got around to playing it, so I like looked up the story beats. I know the final boss is actually the kid from Birth by Sleep, isn't it?
Not really. It's all right. Is it okay if I just
Yeah,
spoil it?
you can tell me. Yeah, I don't care.
So
Spoilers
like,
for Dream Drop Distance if you're planning on picking it up Tuesday.
so like you know how Ventus, like his heart is in Sora's heart, which
Yeah.
we found out in Birth by Sleep.
Mhm.
So when the whole here we
We're
go.
gonna sound like psychopaths talking.
Oh yeah, no. Anytime we talk about Kingdom Hearts on IP, it's just like I don't even know what's going on. So in the whole point of Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance is Xehanort, like his master plan is to make essentially 12 other clones of him, the true Organization 13, which is 13 Xehanorts. So like some characters are already clones of him. Zigbar is a clone of Xehanort.
Which one's that?
He's the organization member number 2, the guy with the guns. The 2
Okay.
guns.
Yep.
So he has a bit of Xehanort's heart, a shard of Xehanort's heart in him. So he is part Xehanort. He's essentially they kind of call them clones.
Yeah.
And Syx, who's another one of the organization members, is also has a part of Xehanort in him. That was like Axel's best friend.
I think I remember
the guy with
that
the
dude.
blue hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they want to make Sora a clone of Xehanort for whatever. I feel like going after him was like, it's like, come on, that's like primo hero boy material over here. So like halfway through that game, or most of the way through that game, Riku figures out that he's actually been in Sora's dreams the whole time. I know, strap in. And Sora has been asleep the whole time in the dream world, and Riku has been in Sora's dreams. Which is, that whole game's about dreams and time travel. It's real dumb. So Riku eventually goes into Sora's heart.
Hold on. What's the dream world? Am I missing something there?
The sleeping world is where Riku and Sora go at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, is that when you're fighting Ursula at the beginning? I did play like the opening hour or two.
So yeah, like the worlds that got taken over by darkness, before they could come back completely, they're sleeping and they need to be woken up.
That's right.
So the sleeping world's kind of like an alternate dimension, but they go into the past to essentially access to go to those worlds, and then they come back to the present where they're sleeping and wake them up. It's weird. I'm not trying to defend it. Again, when they added time travel to that game, it was too much. And it's been a bit since I played it, so some of these details might be a little rough, but essentially at the end, Sora is falling into darkness and his heart is overcoming with darkness. But Riku goes into his heart, goes into his dreams, which are of the heart. And the darkness around Sora's heart was absorbed into Ventus's heart, which was trying to protect Sora's heart, and it embodies itself as like this evil coat of armor, Ventus's armor, covered in darkness, and then you beat that, and it frees both their hearts from the darkness. And then Sora wakes up and is all happy, and then Riku gets made Keyblade Master, and Sora doesn't because he succumbed to darkness. And you're like, what the fuck?
Oh, cool. That's actually kind of cool. That's a cool twist, sort of at the ending.
So like Riku becomes the hero essentially, and Sora is like, okay, I just need to learn. He's not upset about it or anything. He's like, great, Riku, yay! He's like super happy for him because Sora. He's like, I'm gonna train harder and be better. So like going into Kingdom Hearts 3 with him as like not a Keyblade Master but Riku as a Keyblade Master is kind of a cool thing. So that's like there are other things leading up about Xehanort's plan.
I kind of dig that. It reminds me of like Star Wars 3 or something, like where they're like, all right, you're a Jedi Master, or you're on the council, but we're not going to give you the title of Jedi Master. And then he gets mad and kills all those little kids or whatever. So,
yeah, except like Sora's like still a good guy.
Yeah. So maybe you'll kill some kids in 3. Who knows?
Some people were upset about that, but like I think it's cool because it sets them up for like that classic hero story of like Riku trying to do his best, but then Sora sweeping in and saving the day.
Well, it sets up 3 well. Like,
yeah, it does a lot to set up 3 well. And at the end in credits, essentially, there's like this big visual image that's like the next game is Kingdom Hearts 3. Chill, everybody. So I
Only
don't think
it only took I don't
it's
even
been
know
17 years, or it's been
12
12
years.
years.
Yeah,
Not 17. It feels like 17 years, but
at
yeah,
least we're getting it.
yeah,
Like,
like it's happening. It's just like it wasn't in development for a long time. I think that's like the big thing.
when do you think it comes out reasonably? Next year? I
Well,
mean,
they just put it. I was thinking next year for a while, like 2018. But they Nomura has just put out like an interview where he's like, "Hey, yeah, we're doing good, but we still got a lot to do."
he
So
just he just switched over to the project full time, didn't he? Because wasn't he splitting his time between the Final Fantasy VII remake and Kingdom
he
Hearts
switched
3?
over to that full time when Tabata took over.
That's who I'm. Yeah,
15. Yeah, so that was 2014.
yeah, that's what
So
I'm thinking.
he's
Of.
been full time directing that game for just about a little over 2 years now. So
Okay, I
like
get
that
those
game's
two dudes mixed up all the time.
Yeah.
Because I don't follow Japanese game development as closely as I do
yeah.
Western.
But like that game's gonna be fine. I think
I do too.
it just recently went into development for the first time is the thing. That's why like we've been waiting all this time, but they haven't been making that game.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was so strange when they announced it because I had a feeling that it really wasn't in development yet, which
Yeah.
was odd. But I'm really looking forward to it. Like, I hope it's cool.
Yeah.
It should be. Like, I don't know. I wanted to actually ask you about Final Fantasy 15 too because I know you love that game. I haven't gotten into playing that yet, even though I like want to really badly. I was going to actually dive into it this last week, but I knew RE7 was coming out this coming week. And once that comes out, that's going to be the first thing I play. And I didn't want to get
into
10,
something else.
yeah, 10, 15 hours into a JRPG and then stop. So how similar is 15 to the Kingdom Hearts games? Because that was like the main thing I heard from people that, oh, the combat's so similar now this time to Kingdom Hearts. So if you like Kingdom Hearts, you'll dig Final Fantasy 15. And I've never played a Final Fantasy game. So
I think it's definitely very different. It is similar in that they are both like actiony. The pace of Final Fantasy combat is a little bit slower, I guess. It's like still fast paced, but like when I think about Kingdom Hearts 2, like that is some like controller gripping stuff. It starts pretty slow, and then it definitely picks up toward the end.
those final worlds, you're just like,
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
It's so smooth.
Yeah. And 15's combat is really smooth, but it's like the curve of that combat is a lot different. It depends on how you kind of like what weapons you gravitate towards. If you gravitate to slower weapons, it will be slower, of course. But I think like it's a good pace. It's like medium pace. Let's say it's not too slow. It's not too fast. And it feels really great, especially like when you get into the rhythm of dodging and like perfect dodging and blocking and things like that. And there are some boss fights in that game that really get crazy. So it's good.
Is it better? How's the one from the E3 showing? That giant colossal.
That fight is not that bad. Like
it looked really bad at E3.
That fight is different than that E3 demo. Like I think ultimately because there's like another layer of it where like these guys show up and they're like harpooning the boss and then you have to like stop them. And like there's a lot of that fight is like a bit of a puzzle. And there are similar large like wide scale fights in that game that are pretty great with like the summon enemies. So
I'm looking forward to diving into it. I don't know when that'll be, but I'm actually, if I can get through that in February before Horizon and Zelda, then I'll be good. I'll be happy with that, but I just got to do that. So
yeah, it's a flawed game, but I think it's worth like determining for yourself how you feel about it. It's worth playing at the very least.
I have no prior expectation, like I don't have a point of reference for the series, so I'm just going into it. Just I have no idea what to expect. So the combat looks cool to me. Like the story, I dig the car bros idea, just traveling across the country. Like I think the concept's cool. We'll see if it pays off, in my opinion. But you liked it a lot, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. They nailed that concept. The concept of like car bros or hanging out with your boys and going on a road trip. If anything, the game does that better than any other video game that I've seen even come close to attempting it. So
that's good to hear.
Like when people saw that, like that is the game, that is the core of it, that is most of what you play, and like if you were like interested in that part of it, you will get a lot out of it. So you got to
cool.
commit to it. Like you got to see it through to the end, though, for sure.
I will. I rarely start games and then don't finish them. And if I do, I feel bad. And I
Yeah.
lay awake at
you
night,
always will.
tossing and turning, thinking about how I need to go finish it. So
Think about how you could be playing that game instead of sleeping, because sleep is for
yeah,
a week. Yeah, no,
exactly. So yeah, that's basically what I've been doing. Yeah, I don't know. This past week or two has been weird because I have been in like a holding pattern because I know RE7 is coming up, and I'm like a huge Resident Evil fan, so I hope that is a good game. I don't know. I have no idea what to expect from it. I don't know
Have
how
you played all the Resident Evils?
6 is the only one I skipped, and
Right, good call, probably.
that's what I've heard. I've
Haven't
heard
played
people,
a lot of Resident Evil 6. Probably a good call.
I've almost dove into it like 3 different times this month because I'll go to the store and I'll just see it sitting there on the shelf, the PS4 version. I'm like, should I do it? I feel like I owe it to myself. And then I talk myself out of it. Yeah, before I've talked about it, and I've told this story on the show in the past, but I'll tell you, when RE5 was coming out, I was like, this game looks so cool, but I haven't played any of the previous others. So like the following day I went out to GameStop and I bought Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 0, and Resident Evil Code Veronica. And I played all 3 of them all back to back to back to back to back to back to back.
Wow.
And then right as soon as I finished it, RE5 came out. And I was like, oh, RE5 wasn't even that good. I don't know why I played through the whole series for this.
I like Resident Evil 5 quite a bit.
I played through it like 2 or 3 times, and I actually think I like it more than the normal person does, but I can't deny how much better some of those other older games are.
I've played through Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5. I've played quite a bit of Resident Evil 6, and I recently started a playthrough of Resident Evil 1, the remaster, and then the re-release of the remaster. Which is weird because that game kind of reminds me of like point and click adventure games of the past. Like,
yeah,
you're walking around a mansion, like getting items and kind of putting them in stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is like not a Telltale game, a LucasArts game of like going around, filling out your inventory and then like trying to use all your items on everything. Like, so with zombies, just kind of hanging out there too.
I love looking back at the first game. The thing I love so much is that you do have to have a literal item to save the game. And the first time I played it, I didn't know that. So I was just like saving every 3 seconds for like the first 2 hours. And then I realized I totally screwed myself over. And I reached a point where I'm pretty sure I had to restart the game because there was like a 45-minute period where I had to get through until I got more ink ribbons. And I just couldn't do it without saving somewhere in the middle of that. So I just had to start over. RE1's awesome. I like 1, 2, 3's cool too. 3 doesn't really do anything story-wise, but that the Nemesis, whatever, is just a cool concept that at any point this thing could show up and you just have to sprint between the different locales. And it really keeps you on your toes. And that sense of dread that you have with those old games, like you don't know what's around the next corner, it's really heightened in 3. 3's story isn't that good, though. And I think you play as Jill, if I'm correct, and you're just basically trying to get out of the city. But I like Nemesis, and Nemesis is a solid game. 2 and 3 are really short, though. Like you could beat them if you know what you're doing, you could beat them in like 2 or 3 hour sittings. I beat 2 in an afternoon.
Okay.
So one holds up though. 1 is really well done, and I played the remake myself a little bit over Halloween. It was nice to go back to.
I want to see 1 through just because like I'm so curious about it. I also never played the DLC for 5, the mansion stuff in 5.
I never played that either.
I've heard it's great. So
because they ended up coming out with that gold edition or whatever. I used to not have good internet in my house back in those days, so I could never download half that stuff. So I just crossed my fingers and prayed to the gaming gods that they would release a Game of the Year edition at some point of the game.
That's a bummer. So in Resident Evil 7, like what's your expectation going into that game?
So I honestly, about a month ago, there was a lot of previews out that I was kind of reading up on. And I started hearing that it was way more Resident Evil than you expected. So now I think I'm kind of trying to I'm kind of starting to realize that it probably will have a lot of the normal Resident Evil elements, like the herbs and just the adventure type vibe to it, where you got to find certain items to progress along in the mansion or wherever you may be at in the game. So I'm starting to realize that there's probably going to be a lot of those elements that I didn't originally expect. Honestly, though, especially after playing the demos, I really didn't know. I mean, I got there was total PT vibes from it, but I think I don't know. I don't know what I expect from it because it is so different from probably the last 5 or 6 Resident Evil games we've gotten, and it's also the first one in first person too. So I don't know, and I also don't know where the bar is at for me anymore with Resident Evil as a series, considering I skipped 6 altogether. So I don't know. I think it'll be no less than good. As far as like if I was to rate it, like I think it will be like an objectively good game. But as far as like how it fits in with Resident Evil, I guess we'll find out tomorrow or Tuesday or whatever. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it though.
Yeah. It's a tough call. It's weird. That series has been gone for so long. Think about it, Resident Evil 6 came out in like what, 2012?
Yeah, that was one of the it was 2012.
So that's 5 years.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's come out between now and then is like the Operation Raccoon Cities and like the whatever, the Umbrella Corps.
Yeah. Was that the one that came out last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just weird.
Just garbage.
Just
actual garbage.
Games.
Yeah.
I forgot about Raccoon City. I thought that looked so good on paper too, which was thing.
Me and a friend went and rented it just so we could do a stream of it. Oh boy, that is a rough piece of work.
I think, what was it? I remember X-Play's review of that game, and it was just so degrading. And I was like, all right, I'm never touching this game then, ever in my life. So, which sucked. I don't know. Resident Evil, it's such a weird series.
Revelations 2 has come out between now and then, I guess.
Yeah, wasn't it episodic?
Yeah, it was like weekly episodic.
Yeah.
People liked that one. So
I never got into the Revelation games because it started on 3DS, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do my.
There's that Revelations like HD remake, which is like $60.
Is it really
on PS3 and 360? I think it's something absurd. It's at least $40, and it's way too expensive.
Huh?
Yeah, they're out there. You could get them.
I forgot about Revelations altogether. This is a weird series. Now that I think about it, we haven't had an actual. I'd say 5 was the last like one I would classify as good.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't touched Revelations, and I've actually heard good things about those.
And
but
5 was like 2009 still.
That was a while ago. Yeah. It's been a little bit. So hopefully 7's good. I'm sure I'll talk about it next week. Well, yeah, I'll probably talk about it next week.
I'm curious to see what you think about it. So
we'll definitely have to chat about it. I want to hear what you think about Kingdom Hearts 2. I'm sure you'll like it, but
oh yeah, I'm sure I'll like it too. It's got
talking about it makes me want to pick it up Tuesday, and I'm like, no, you got to save for the Switch. Got to save for the Switch.
I'm glad I've been like squirreling money away, inevitably for the Switch, and I've already got it like locked and loaded, set aside, so paid off. But the other thing that we didn't talk about with 2.8 is the little demo, kind of like the demo opening chapter.
The one where you're Aqua.
Where we're playing as Aqua, and it's in the Kingdom Hearts 3 engine, so that's exciting.
I forgot about that too. And then there's that weird like
the
cutscene thing,
Unchained Key movie, which is the mobile game story turned into a movie.
That's what it was. I couldn't remember if that was new or if that was an existing thing.
I don't know if it exists to the extent that it is in that like movie in the actual mobile game. Like I don't know if like as thorough and detailed lore as that movie is going to be exists in that mobile game as is. So I don't know.
There's too much to play.
Yeah, it's all out on Tuesday too.
I know.
There's like nothing for 3 weeks.
I've been trying to play through Dishonored 2 recently as well.
That game's all right.
It's pretty good. I just got to the Clockwork Mansion, so
people always cite the Clockwork Mansion as one of the best levels in that game. It is not the best level in that game, though. Think about that. That level's really good.
Did you? So you had Dishonored was high on your list for like your favorites of last year, wasn't it?
Number 4.
I still don't know how I feel about it. And yeah, it was you. Yeah, your video's fresh in my head. You said you didn't know how you felt after you finished Dishonored 1, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're like, all right, it's a good game, but I don't know if I'm like in
Good
on
game,
it.
not a great game.
That's how I felt about 1. And then I heard everybody rave about 2. And I thought 2 looked way better. And I'm actually really enjoying it. Like, but I still don't know if I'm just like, yeah, this is what I'm wanting. I'm so meticulous with that game. Like, it takes me 3 hours to beat a level. And I don't know if that's just me.
That's me. That was me. No.
So,
I would quick load, quick save, quick load, quick save.
Yeah.
Constantly. Anytime someone saw me, I would reload the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I get you. Like you get into a rhythm. Like I got way better at that game about halfway through it, which is actually pretty deep into that game. Like I was still bad at it because the Clockwork Mansion's like mission 3, and I was still bad at it when I was doing that. But like when I got to like mission 6, I was all right. So, and then like it really picked up, and then the level design picked up with that. Like the last 3 levels, I like destroyed in that game. I totally had a game plan for it, even though it was all new. But they were still brilliantly designed, and I probably missed stuff. So, I like the more you play that game, I think the more you appreciate it. That's why when I said I went back and replayed Dishonored 1, I liked it a lot more. So I feel like the better you know that game, the better experience you have with it.
I think what makes Dishonored hard is that you can't, compared to typical stealth games, I feel like most stealth games now, there's some sort of element where you can see through walls or something like that, like anywhere. And I know that's in Dishonored. That's an ability that at least, I don't know if Corvo has the ability, but Emily does, and I'm playing through as her. Do they both? Okay. So I know you can kind of see through walls, but it's like really limited with the distance and things like that. I think it's so much harder because I'm used to stealth games now almost spoon feeding you in a way, and like being like, hey, here's where everybody is, we're gonna mark them all on your map, or we're gonna, in like Hitman's case, you can literally see everybody on the map pretty much.
Yeah, and
with
like
your Hitman vision.
the dark vision is what it's called.
I think that's right.
Yeah, in Dishonored 1 you could see like way further, so they rebalanced it to make it harder in Dishonored 2. Which like makes sense, and you can get more out of that vision. Like you can see enemy vision cones and stuff if you upgrade that ability, which I would recommend doing. And you can also see the paths that they walk. So that stuff helps a lot if you're having trouble. But yeah, my problem with Dishonored 1 was like if it goes to hell and people see you, there's no non-lethal way to really get out of that. And I try to stick mostly non-lethal. So the trouble with me was, okay, I got spotted. That's fine. Like in a Metal Gear, I still got my trank gun. I could tranquilize some people and get out. But in Dishonored, it's like, well, I could try and choke this one person, but then 3 others come and then they stab that person.
They all know way too fast, I feel like, that's a complaint I had with another game recently. I can't remember what it was that I was playing, but it was like the second you're spotted, everybody in the area knows. It was
Uncharted?
It was Watch Dogs. Okay. Watch Dogs, once you broke stealth in that game, everybody in the area knew. And that was always really, that's what Metal Gear is good with, is that somebody can spot you, but if you take them down before they alert everybody else, then you're still good.
Yeah. Dishonored is good about like rooms, but some of those rooms, like, so like in this room, which is like, let's say it's like a entrance hall, everyone in that area will know, which typically is a lot of people. But like if you're in a room off to the side and one person sees you, not everyone in the whole building will know. Some people might come that are nearby to like look at what's going on in that room. But if you get the situation figured out before they get there, you can like cheese it and they'll walk away. So it's better than the first one was about like kind of delineating out things out to rooms. But it is, when there's like 4 people in a room, you're like, well, I don't even know how I stealth or I non-lethally get out of this situation. Like it feels like I'm forced to just murder my way out of here.
And Domino's been cool with that. Is just linking everybody together, and then boom, sleep dart, you're all asleep.
Yeah, and sometimes you can
out of here.
You can set that up as like essentially just a backup plan where they're all dominoed and you're trying to get through without affecting any of them. But if they do see you, you can hit one of them and knock them all out. Which is stuff that
That's a good idea. I haven't actually thought about that, like preemptively setting up domino just in case.
Yeah, because if I have one sleep dart left, those are hard to come by.
Yeah,
let's say I'll domino them just in case, but I won't use it unless I have to. That way I can hold on to it if I can. So there you start to, again, like the more you play that game, the more strategies you start thinking of, and I feel like the better you get at it. So
Yeah, I definitely feel like I've gotten better at it over the course of the few levels I've done.
yeah, you've still got a lot to see. I'll say that much. Like you've got plenty ahead of you that you can like get better with. And there's the best level in that game you have not seen yet.
I would hope so. The
Yeah.
doctor's level was pretty cool. That was one I just finished, but
That doctor's level is cool.
probably gonna play it tonight if we. Yeah, I'll play it tonight. I don't have class till noon tomorrow, so I'll be up
Yeah.
all night playing that. Yeah. What have you been playing? We've been talking about all kinds of stuff I'm playing and looking forward to, I guess. But
A lot of stuff. I finished The Last Guardian.
you did.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Let's talk about that.
Did you finish Last Guardian?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Max didn't want to jump into it. He's never played any of those games.
Yeah, I talked about this a little bit on Irrational Passions last night, which was 312. If people want to go listen to that, I'm so conflicted about that game.
Yeah.
I'm like all over the place because I love it overall, but I hate parts about it. But like the things that I hate about it, if they took those parts out, the game would noticeably be worse. Like I know a lot of people have lodged a complaint of like, well, this game could be 5 hours shorter. I'm like, well, no, it couldn't, because if this game was short, everything that they're trying to do with this game would fail.
You don't feel the same connection to Trico, right?
Yeah,
If it's shorter.
it needs to be a slow burn. Like it has to be, and it's
I
like
I agree with that completely.
not a super interesting slow burn, but it has to be paced the way it was. Otherwise, it's not as effective. And I feel like if that is not as effective, then the game fails at what it was trying to do. Some people think it just objectively fails at what it was trying to do. I don't.
I don't either.
But ultimately what I decided was that for the first time, I don't think like I've felt this about a game, but that game was released out of its time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I understand like the game was in development for 10 years, whatever. But I think even if it was released more than 10 years ago, it would have hit harder. Like if this game came out before Shadow, but after Eco, it would have been better received, if that makes sense.
No, that definitely makes sense.
Like this feels like the second in those
Yeah.
three games quality wise,
Yeah,
and Shadow feels like the epitome of what they were trying to do.
I totally agree with that because Shadow's a much simpler premise, and I think because of that, it's easier to nail in some ways. Like there's no in between parts, and there is in between parts where like you have to find where the Colossuses are or whatever, but you don't think about that when you think back on the game or anything. Like you just think about the boss battle moments. The Last Guardian, there is a lot of downtime to it.
In The Last Guardian, that whole game is the in between parts between Shadows, between the Colossi.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
I do agree though, that game needed a slow burn because they needed to get you invested in essentially Trico. That's the whole point. Like the boy character himself, you don't really, to me at least, that was me. Like even though there was a voiceover narration the whole time, and like this is a character, and you get out of this, and that who you're playing as survives. It's about the relationship over everything else. And because it was such a slow burn, when you do get to those like marquee points where Trico's under attack by other bird dogs or something like that, like you feel like stressed out, almost similar to how the boy feels or how Trico feels in that situation. It really does a great job of just, and that was what I struggled with too, is that the controls they do feel so dated, and I was constantly getting so frustrated with the game, or with Trico specifically, I guess. Well, there's a couple platforming parts in that game where I kept dying repeatedly, and I knew that I was doing it the right way. I just couldn't like make the proper jump, or I couldn't get my character to latch onto the edge properly when he landed on it. Something stupid things like that. And I was getting frustrated with all of those things. But what that game nails is the attachment to that character. And I don't know if I've really ever felt an attachment to a character like that in a game. Like, I guess Ellie comes to mind, but even then you almost like Ellie so much because she's witty, and she's speaking to you the whole game.
There's
And
humanistic characters there,
yeah,
whereas like Trico is none of those humanistic
yeah,
characters.
he's none of those things. And it was amazing to me playing The Last Guardian. Like, I think we recorded an episode, and I had just started playing The Last Guardian before we recorded. I played for maybe like an hour, and I got on and kind of gave my early thoughts. And like within that first hour, they hook you right away. And I don't know at what point it was that I felt hooked, and I don't know when I felt so invested in protecting that dog, but it's within that first 30 to 60 minutes there. At some point I was just like, oh my gosh, I really care about this thing, and I don't want it to get hurt in any way.
Yeah. I mean, that opening is powerful. Like, I think like the first 2 hours of that game are really great.
Yeah, I do too.
And like they like nail exactly what they're going for. Like, he's so terrifying when you first see him. Like, I was legitimately uneasy around him as the boy, especially like when you like the narrator's like, I've heard of the man-eating beasts. I'm like, this thing is like a killer of people. Like, this is a thing that people are afraid of. And you see him like all wounded and everything. And he's like violent towards you, and he hits you, and then you pass out. Like, they're great little moments in that opening. And I think if I collected all the like the things that I'm going to remember from that game, it's like the big set piece ending, save for like the one scene where you're flying around, which is like really great. Because you like see the whole nest and everything. But like that big set piece moment at the end, and like the one like kind of in the middle, with falling down the bridges and everything, I'm not going to remember those as much as like the little things, like when Trico's trying to wake you up that one time, or when like you're like the part just before the final tower where you're climbing up those other 2 towers, and like Trico's slowly getting up the courage to do this thing that you've wanted him to do for like an hour, up to an hour at that point, and then he does it, and it's like just a great moment. So like the other parts about that game,
I remember one that sticks out to me is like when you're dangling by that branch and you can't get down, and he just keeps trying to like get you down from there.
Things.
Yeah,
it's really great. It's poignant, right? And you feel like a team, especially like that was one of the first moments where you like really felt like a team. And like the moment where like he like powers through his fear of the eyes to help you is like just great. Because he's like, he's like, there are moments when the boy is like, if I can't go on without you, I'm not going on. And there are moments where Trico's like, if I can't go on without you, I'm not going to go on. Like, as far as achieving their goal of getting out of there. So
I think part of the reason why I'm trying to think back to the beginning and why that connection does start so quickly. I think a lot of it has to do with they introduced that shield mechanic so early, and then they take it out. Yeah. And I think by doing that like you're performing an action, and then Trico is immediately like doing something in response to that action. And so when they take that away, you still have that, like, you've built that connection up, like that
immediacy,
that cooperation between the two of you, that even when that mechanic goes away, it's like, okay, well, now I know I'm working along with Trico, and I know that we're buddies and we got to get out of this together. And I think that was smart. And they don't reintroduce that again until like the last act of the game, pretty much. Yeah.
And it's cool. It's a smart move to do that. Like, there are a lot of smart parts about that game. It's just like the crime of that game is like long parts of it are just kind of boring, like, and the thing is, it's not necessarily like a bad thing that it's boring, but I understand why people are frustrated with that game because of that. Like, the things that you're doing are like manipulating this world that you just kind of find yourself in order to get out of it. Like, and that is not inherently interesting. It can be, but it's not in this game. And I like, again, because that game requires and demands so much patience, because it has to be the way it is. It has to be slow, or else it doesn't work. That if if it wasn't like that, it would not be as good. But if it had come out way earlier, just in general, like 2004 or 2003, this game would be like heralded as one of the greats because of the time period it came out in.
And because of that, I'm wondering where it's going to sit within the minds of like the gaming community, I guess, going forward. Like, is this going to be one of those things that's maybe that right now, like as everybody's playing through it and moving through it, like frustrated with the controls, frustrated with how it feels old, like things like that like one would be frustrated about in 2016 or 2017, whenever you're playing this game. But like 5 years down the road, I'm wondering if we're going to remember that, and will instead the people who played it are just going to remember the story and almost look back on it fondly. And I feel like it might be a cult game, like a game that just the fan base is really passionate about, the people who like it. And I'm going to guess most people won't play it because it sold so poorly the month of its release, which is not a good thing moving forward for the life of that game on store shelves. But
I don't think that's a surprise, though.
No, it's not by any means. So. Not at all. So I don't know. I'm wondering. It's not going to sit next to Eco or Ico, whatever, in Shadow of the Colossus the same. It's not going to be regarded the same way, but I think it's going to have a fervent fan base still years from now, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I think when games come out that are trying to do what it does and don't do it as well, either because they try and tote the line of being like a Journey or an Inside, and also being a Last Guardian, and realize like, oh, a game this short can't make what this game did. And like, I think a lot of people don't realize that, but that's totally true. So when those come out, I think people will look back and be like, man, the Last Guardian actually, for all of its faults, like was the way it is. And the other thing, just like the last point, my kind of ultimate feelings with The Last Guardian is I've never felt that a game needed to come out more. Like, that game, if it had just gone away and never actually come out, it would have been a travesty. Like, the video game space is better because that game finally came out. Like, not necessarily because it's great, but because, like, what that game does got to be that game. Like, it got to happen. It's finished. It feels like a finished video game. And it's out, and it can be, it can just sit out there and be on the shelf and be a finished product. Yeah,
I'm trying to think here. Like, I think I agree with you on that. Like, with that being the game, like, I'm trying to think of other games that were promised or that we thought we would get and we never got. Like, Half-Life 3 comes to mind, but like, I've come to grips with Half-Life 3.
Scalebound.
Not existing. Scalebound. Yeah, that's the one.
For Scalebound.
I think part of the reason why that game needed to come out is because it is so different.
It's
like,
its own thing, man.
Like Half-Life, you can almost be like, well, it's a shooter in the end. While it's a very unique shooter and cool in many regards, like, there's other shooters. There's no other Last Guardian, whatever you want to call that game genre-wise, adventure, platformer. I don't know. There's nothing else like the amalgamation of just what that game is what it is, and there's nothing really that you can compare it to compared to some other games that have just gone silent. So yeah, I agree with you in that regard. What else you been playing?
That Neo demo.
The Neo demo, is it the same one from PSX? Because I played it at PSX.
I don't know.
Why not?
I had never played Neo before. I know it's been like playable in some alpha or beta form many times before, but so the final trial was available this weekend. I guess it will be unavailable tomorrow as of Monday, but so I had not played this game. I've been very interested in it. A lot of Souls folks that I know like it quite a bit, or had played it and liked what they had played. I liked it a lot. It's weird. It gets that Souls comparison a lot, the Dark Souls or the Demon Souls or the Bloodborns. It is definitely more like Bloodborne of all of those things.
I got a lot of Ninja Gaiden vibes from it when I played it.
Yeah. I mean, it's Team Ninja. It's weird. Again, it is like that as well, but
it's its own thing while being very similar to a few other things. Like, it felt unique when I got my hands on it.
Yeah. It is cool. There's like this whole stance mechanic of like low, mid, and high stance that are like varying levels of fast. The heavy and soft attacks, and then are varying levels of speed. And there's this whole idea of ki, and there's like this kind of active reload system where like after you do a combo, you can time it right to like regain all of your stamina very fast versus having to wait for it to rebuild up. Which is cool, and if you learn how to do that mid combo a lot, you can really tear people apart in that game. So yeah, there's a lot of layers to that. to the feel of that game that I didn't know about that are unique and interesting. It's weird though because I played through it and it's different enough from like a Dark Souls, while also being paced similarly combat wise, that I had to essentially just relearn everything that I learned in those games in the style of this game. And I got through that first. There's like essentially there's 2 missions because it's like a mission based game, which is weird too. There's 2 missions, and I got through that first mission, and then the second mission is just this boss fight in like this pretty small, secluded area. It was just really frustrating, and I had not gotten frustrated with a game like that in a long time, like since like maybe Dark Souls 2, maybe Dark Souls 1.
Was it frustrating because it was hard, or frustrating because of like controls
hard,
or something like that?
No, I mean like the controls are fine. It's just hard because like everything comes at you so quickly, and I feel like I haven't learned how to handle a very fast-paced enemy that does absurd amounts of damage in that kind of game. And I feel like it wasn't giving me the tools to learn that. It was just killing me before I could even learn a little bit about what I should do. And I didn't really. It was relearning everything. It was a situation where I didn't even know where to start as far as like conquering that kind of fight. It's essentially like a one-on-one duel with another samurai-esque character, and they just tear you to pieces. And some of their attacks just do most, if not all, of your health. So, and like the missions are labeled. So the first one is like mission 1. This is labeled as like mission 11. It's like clearly like a later thing. But it was off-putting in that, like, I hope when I get the game, I don't get to this mission and then just can never beat it and walk away. I'm sure, like, if I sat down and really committed to it, just like...
Is there like a level-up system in it? Like, similar to Dark Souls?
It's exactly Dark Souls.
Okay. So then you could probably craft your character to, like, handle situations like that better or something, I guess.
Like, you get Amrita, which you lose all if you die, and you have to go to your grave and regain it.
Okay.
And at shrines, also bonfires, you can go and pour a point into a stat, and that's a level up, and that costs Amrita. So yeah, it's Dark Souls.
That's
which
fine.
Which is fine.
Which is rip off Dark Souls. More games should do that.
If it isn't broke, don't fix it, right? So yeah, it feels good. The moment, like the exploration part of it, like the Dark Souls part of it, where you're like going around like a very mysterious map. There's no map. And you're just kind of finding your way and fighting really tough enemies. Feels awesome. Some of the boss fights feel a little weird. There are 2 in that demo that I saw. And like the boss of the level has like this one attack where they attack like 15 times, and if you get caught in the middle of that, it's just gonna kill you. And like that's it. Like there's no way to get out of that. It'll stun lock you and you're done. And then the other boss fight was similar except much more powerful. So again, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like the thing about Souls fights is like they feel like if you get caught in something, you can figure a way out of it.
They're hard but fair.
Yeah.
I don't know how they find that balance. But like
they
never,
for sure.
You never feel overwhelmed if you know the strategy to defeating a boss, and it's more just. Oftentimes with Dark Souls and Bloodborne, I've found that when I lose against a boss, it's because I'll do something stupid myself, like try to get another extra hit in, or like it's total user error when I screw up those fights and when I should just be sticking to the game plan. And so I never have understood how From Software is able to find that line. And they do, though. They sure do every single one of those games they make.
Yeah. And like this, it might be balanced differently in the final build. I don't know. And I understand that it's like supposed to be very hard. It's just like, I want it to be hard, but not like frustrating, if that makes sense.
No, for sure. And that's the thing. Like Dark Souls is fair. Like it is.
And I don't get frustrated easily. I would say it's just like if it gets to a point where I'm like, this is just not fun at all. This doesn't feel like a challenge I can overcome. It feels like a thing where I walked up and then I'm dead because like this guy just did a 4-hit combo on me that killed me instantly. And I don't know how to approach that. Like, do I guard? Oh, all my stamina's gone and then he killed me. Or do I, like, what do I do? So I don't know. But we'll see. I might play more of that after this and try and beat that second.
It's out really soon, isn't it?
Yeah,
Final game,
February.
isn't it like 2 or 3 weeks? I think
it's February 9th. Yeah,
so pretty close. Yeah, that's one of those ones that I've been like wanting to pick up when it comes out, but I won't because Switch. So that 6 months from now, if we're in a drought or something like that, that might be a game I grab on a store shelf for hopefully $20-$30 or something like that, and then go through it from there. It looks fun though. Like I have hope for it. I've had hope for it for a while. It's also been in development for, if I'm correct, like 8 years. Yeah, it's been a while. So I wonder if it was always inherently Dark Souls, if it's been in development that long. I'd be interested to read about that almost.
Yeah. It's also weird because like when you boot up that game, it's like there are like 3 modes of that game. There's gameplay, like action mode, where it's like 60 frames per second, and then movie mode, where it makes the graphics better and locks it to 30 frames per second, and then movie mode but with variable frame rate, so it makes it look better, but the frame rate is unlocked. That's
kind of weird.
Yeah,
but maybe they're trying not to piss off the fanboys, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, like I put in like video game mode because I'm like, this needs to run at 60 frames per second, and it's much better for it. So
that works.
So, but that's always me. I always prioritize frame rate. So
it's odd, but so are you a frame rate snob then? Are you
I'm not a frame rate snob, but like if something has the option to run at 60 frames per second, I will always opt to that.
Yeah.
Like I'm not into PC gaming that much. Like I want to be, but I haven't invested in that. I don't know if I will. I've been planning on it, but we'll see. I got to go to PAX and some other events this year, so I got to.
Which PAX you going to? East?
I always go to PAX East. I might be going to PAX West this year.
That'd be nice.
I haven't been to PAX West since 2012, which was a good time, but I prefer PAX East.
So most of your money's going towards trips this year again.
Yeah, but like I'm actually in a good spot financially for the first time in my whole life ever. So
that's good.
And I just did my taxes. Got a nice big refund coming back to me. So
that's nice.
That'll probably go.
Are you in school right now or anything? I don't even know.
I start school on Wednesday.
Ooh, where at?
The University of Maryland College Park.
Nice.
Which is I guess a prestigious school.
What are you doing there?
I am a journalism major.
Journalism, nice. That's what I started as. Mm-hmm. How far along are you? I don't know any of this stuff about you. You have your associates already.
Yeah, I got my associates in December of 2015, so I had a year off. Because when I got accepted into this school, like it was like 4 days before registration. So I was like, well, I guess I'm not going this semester, because that's not enough time to figure any of this out. Mm-hmm. So now I'm back, starting on Wednesday. I'm nervous and about how stressful it's going to be, but we'll see.
It won't be too bad. It's not too bad. I need to get out. I'm tired of it. So I think I got 2 semesters left, and then I'm out, and then. I don't know. Well, actually, that's when the real stress begins, because then I have to.
Then you're an adult.
Then I'm a real boy. I'm a real big old boy, and I got to find a career or something. And that's a whole
other thing.
That's a whole new thing for me to discover. So that'll be fun. Been playing anything else?
This is the big things. I've been chipping it away at Tales of Zestiria, which was the most recent Tales game up until Tuesday. Just trying to knock it out before Berseria comes out. But
never played any of those games.
They're real good. Tales of Vesperia, which in the United States is exclusive to the Xbox 360 of all platforms. That is the best Tales.
I think I remember that. I remember that.
As one of my favorite games of all time as well, alongside Kingdom Hearts 2. That's the best one. A lot of people say Tales of Symphonia is the best one. Tales of Vesperia essentially does everything that game does, but better. It's longer, it's way more interesting, and it plays way, way better. So.
There's low-key some like real solid JRPGs on the 360. You got Lost Odyssey, you have The Last Remnant, you have Blue Dragon, you've got Vesperia, obviously.
Yeah, because those are all in like a group where like Microsoft went to a bunch of Japanese developers and paid them a whole bunch of money to have JRPGs exclusive to.
It's because they were trying to make it popular over in Japan, and that did not work.
Didn't work, which is a bummer, because like Blue Dragon, Tales of Vesperia, great games. A lot of people tell me I should play Lost Odyssey. But let's see.
I play too many new games to go back to play old games half the time. That is why I never played the Kingdom Hearts games on PS3. So
I replay too many old games. I should be playing new games. I play a lot of new games too. That's
actually been like one of my goals for this year, is to play older games, because I never there's so many games I'm looking at right now on my shelf over there, and I'd like to go back and play a lot of them. Just never do.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
I have a lot of bad decisions on my shelf. Like I'm looking at there's a copy of Watch Dogs on my shelf on PS4. What am I doing? Watch Dogs 1, to be fair. Like I still have Battlefield 4 for PS4. I haven't played that game since the PS4 came out.
I got rid of that. When I knew I wasn't going to play
Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. I don't even like that game.
What's your you don't like that game?
I mean, I don't hate that game, but
actually that's one of the 3 lines. Every guest we have on, we ask them if they like that game because Max hates that game and I adore that game.
I don't hate it. I think it is fine, but like I got real bored of it real quick.
It was one of the best launch games for sure.
Yeah, it looks great. It's a great looking game.
It's solid.
Brotherhood is the best Assassin's Creed game.
Brotherhood's good. I think 4 might be my favorite. 4 and 2 are good. Those are the go-to answers for most people. But Brotherhood's good
focused is the thing. Like
I do like that. I do like that you're not jumping around to like different maps.
You're just in one city. It's a big city. You got a lot to do there.
Roman Coliseum.
Yeah, let's run around the Coliseum. It's good.
Something about wolves there, I think. Bunch of wolf boy clans or something.
Yeah, some weird stuff in Brotherhood. You buying out the city. That's the part I like, where you just buy them. You get your Assassin's Creed dudes. You just call them in. They murder folks for you.
That is when that started, isn't it?
Yeah. Now it's like that's old hat. You can do that in every video game.
Now that I think about it, I'm like, huh, maybe
Brotherhood's a real good game.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, it's starting to
story in that game's real good. Some like
most of the Ezio stories were pretty solid.
Yeah, Ezio's a great character. People give him too much grief. He's a great character. It's the best character in that series for sure.
So yeah, that's what we've been playing. The one thing, so you're a Persona guy, aren't you?
Oh yeah.
I keep looking at Persona 4 Golden on my Vita.
And that is my favorite game of all time.
I think I might dive back into it.
You need to do it, man.
I need to do it.
You owe it to yourself.
I know I know 5 is coming, and I know February's pretty empty, and I think I could probably make that my portable game for the month.
Here's the thing, and this might sell you. So I played Persona 3 Fez, which is the best version of Persona 3. Portable is okay, but Fez is the best version. FES. It's on PS2. I played that game, and then I played Persona 4 on PS2. And then eventually I would go on to play Golden. On Vita. But the best part for me about Persona 4 Golden, and I haven't even really talked about this too. Like I know a lot of people that played Persona 4 that love it. But the best part for me about playing Persona 4 Golden was how much better it was than Persona 3 Fez. Like the game over game improvements from those games are astronomical. Like night and day. And Persona 3 is a great game and still is a great game. And that's just how much better Persona 4 is. So if Persona 4 is a great game, you should play it. But if you do play it and you do end up going on to Persona 5, like you will appreciate everything they've done that much more.
That's why I want to play it. I've sunk 15 hours in or so, like a good amount, 15 to 20.
It is not the longest JRPG. Like you can blow through it in 40 if you really want to. 60 is probably more accurate.
See, but that's the thing. I like the small interactions in that game, and I like spending a whole week in that game, having all of my friends and like, hey, maybe we should go save these people. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go talk to this mom that I met over at my job I'm running right now and talk to her and build my social links up with her. I like that stuff. Like that's my favorite parts of the game. It's almost to the point where I think when I left off, they're like, hey, we got like 2 days to go save this dude. And I was like, shoot. All right, fine. I guess we'll go save this guy. So, and then that's when I stopped, was in the dungeons. And I don't think the dungeons are bad, but that's like my least favorite part of what I've played so far. And
yeah, I mean, I like the grind in that game more than most people. The dungeons themselves are not very interesting. That's why one of the big things about Persona 5 that I'm excited about is like all the dungeons are handcrafted original dungeons.
Yeah, that's
which is exactly what that franchise needed, because essentially
what I'm looking forward to the most.
Persona 3 was just like the same floor over and over again for like 210 floors.
So it was Dragon Age 2.
Kinda. Dragon Age 2 even had more diversity than I think Persona 3 did. which is saying something. And I like Dragon Age 2.
I
But,
actually like I like Dragon Age.
Dragon
a
Age
lot
2
as
is my
well.
favorite one in that series. So
Really?
yeah, screw the haters. But Persona 4 is better at it, and like there are like different dungeons, whereas Persona 3 you're just climbing this tower that just goes on forever. And it does change like every 20 floors, it changes, and like the enemies change every floor. But their bosses I think like every 10 or 12 floors or whatever. But yeah, it's Persona 4 is better, but like it looks like they're really gonna nail that in 5. I would say like if you were having trouble, like drop it down to difficulty setting.
Yeah,
You can't
and that's
do
what I've
that
thought
until New
about
Game
too.
Plus, like
Because I just kind of want to see it through more than anything, and so as I do consider going back, I've thought of making it easier on myself, but I don't want it to be boring then. So I don't know. I just need to sit down and play it. More than anything.
That game is really rewarding when you get into the combat and get into like the fusions and stuff like that. Because like you're having fun with all your social link stuff, and you're like, man, I know this person. It's gonna be great when like you get to a really tough boss and you keep dying. You're like, okay, well, let me try this fusion thing, and then you get like these massive experience bonuses every time you fuse something, because you're like, oh man, I leveled up this social link, and now I get like +8 levels in addition to fusing this monster. So it's like, okay, now I see how this feeds into itself and why it's absolutely awesome. So yeah, that game's something special.
I just need to do it, and there's not much else coming out next month. We'll see if I can balance Persona 4 while I'm on the go, and potentially Final Fantasy 15 when I'm at home. We'll see if I can do double JRPGs. I don't usually like doing that, but I need to. And Persona's not coming out.
That's a bad combination. I will say
those
two specifically is rough.
I need to. I've got 2.5 months, I guess, until Persona 5. So, and I doubt I'll buy it launch day anyway, just April, because
so you're okay.
I'm going to be so into Mass Effect that I probably won't even realize Persona's come out. So, and that's fine with me. So I'll probably pick up Persona down the road, at least after release. But it's a weird first few months. And I think we even talked about that last time we spoke to each other. But man, these first few months are kind of ridiculous.
Jam-packed, man.
Yeah, so while we're at it, talking about stuff that's coming out soon, I kind of wanted to pick your brain about the Switch, just out of curiosity. We talked about it for like 2.5 hours last week on the show, but
yeah, I bet you did.
I'm just kind of curious where you're at with it at this point.
It's funny. I wrote like this big editorial about it.
I think I actually read it. I've read so many Switch pieces over the last week, I don't even remember which way is up. But I think I did read yours.
Yeah, and I thought like I was pretty fair. I was a little harsh, but I was fair about it at the very least. It was like a Dark Souls game. But yeah, I mean like, that thing came out of the gate on the wrong foot, and it's gonna maybe be rough. But like I've gotten way more positive about it since like that Fire Emblem Direct, like as it's kind of set into me, and I've listened to both like the camp of people that are really down on it and also the camp of people that are actually pretty positive on it. Like, you know, Giant Bomb West guys were pretty down on it. Giant Bomb East guys were more positive on it. Like IGN was surprisingly more positive about it. The Easy Allies, which are another one of the places that I listen to, they're pretty positive, but also like have plenty of good points about pros and cons. And like after them coming out and saying, "Hey, there's a Fire Emblem game coming out in 2018 to this thing. Fire Emblem Warriors is definitely coming out this year." Made me feel better about it. It feels like they just didn't announce all the things that they're actually working on, which of course they didn't because they're Nintendo and they don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And I said in my editorial, like, I hate it when companies do this, right? Like when Sony did their E3 press conference last year, I was so frustrated because it's like, all right, here's a bunch of games that are not coming out anytime soon.
You were mad about that? You didn't like that?
It's just like you're instigating this excitement about a thing that is just like unrealistically far away.
It's manufactured excitement for sure.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we know we're going to get positive press coming out of this.
Exactly. It's like everyone was super positive about it, but it's like, well, they're taking advantage of you and you're super positive about it because you don't care. And that's a bad thing. It's like Spider-Man looks amazing. God of War looks cool and Days Gone looks cool. but like of all the games they showed, the only of those games that I expect to come out this year is the Quantic Dream game.
Detroit Become Human.
Yeah, Detroit, which still probably won't come out this year.
Yeah, that's the thing though, is that I mean, so you bring that up, but I'm trying to think where they would reveal them then, because it seems like the first party games always get revealed a decent amount of time ahead of schedule, like at least a year or two, it seems like. So like God of War made sense because we had heard murmurings about that forever. Spider-Man's the one that they probably didn't need to show their hand with, even though there had been those rumors like a month or two leading up to E3. But yeah, it is like, I am such a proponent of the quick turnarounds though. Like I loved Fallout 4. I thought that was awesome.
Even like
that
the
was
Mass
so
Effect
cool.
stuff has not been bad. Like we've all just been terrified about that game because we're worried it's gonna be bad. But like they started really unveiling it. I guess at like E3 this past year.
It was like it was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, they announced it a while ago.
Yeah.
But like when they started showing that game, right? Like the first time they ever showed gameplay was the PS4 Pro event, which was weird. But then another gameplay thing at the Game Awards, and then they announced the release date in January, like, and it's coming out in March. It's like, okay, cool. That was like a 6 month or a year total time before they started really talking about it, which is good. Like, I think that's a good amount of time.
I think it's a good strategy. Like I dig that.
And it's just like we have seen multiple times over what happens when that goes bad. Like Watch Dogs, No Man's Sky. Like how many times do we gotta like, talk about this? Like how many times do we have to sit the like publishers down and be like, hey, listen, I know what you're trying to do, and it's a really bad idea, and here's why. And it doesn't usually end up working out for them.
I felt the same way with The Last of Us 2, Part 2, whatever. I was so excited to see it. Like, dude, for the rest of my life, I'll be able to be like, holy crap, I was second row winning. That's The Last of Us 2. That's awesome. But I know the game's so far out that I'm like,
the thing is, like,
all right, like that's fine. And I know Naughty Dog will go into a hole and they won't talk about the game. Like I trust them as a dev.
That's my exception to the rule because like Naughty Dog's got a thing that's coming out this year, right? They got this Uncharted like standalone thing.
Yeah. I forget
and like so they're working on something and they're gonna put that out, so they'll be able to put something out between now and then. You'll be like, oh, Naughty Dog games, I feel good about this again. And like I know they're not gonna talk about The Last of Us for like 2 years, so it's just that instigating thing of like, here's a thing, and then we're gonna talk about it again in a year, and you're gonna have no better idea of how far along this is. Whereas like The Last of Us, the next time they talk about that game, it'll probably be 6 months out.
I guess Death Stranding's probably the poster child for that right now.
Yeah, like come on, guys, stop talking about Death Stranding. It's like a 2019 game.
I wish they would never stop talking about Death Stranding.
It'd be great if
I
they
love
like
those trailers.
had like a weird cinematic trailer like every 6 months for the next 3 years, though. But like I know that's expecting too much because then the game will never come out. But like Nintendo needed to do that. Like and we talked about it on IP again last night. It's different with like a console launch. You think about the PS4 announcement event. Like they announced a Witness at that event. That game just came out last year, a year ago from now. And that made sense. Like when you announce a console, you announce like a big plan. So like Nintendo should have said like, here's 2018. Here's something that probably won't be out till 2018. Here's something that probably won't be out till 2019. They just focused on this year, which it's a smart strategy. I can't like dissuade them from that, but like they have other stuff cooking. Like they're making a Metroid game. Retro is working on something that's probably not going to be out for 2019 or whatever.
Yeah, ever.
And they have like this Fire Emblem game. Like they could have just said like, "Hey, we're making a Fire Emblem game for this thing. It's going to be out in 2018." Like they could have said that, and they should have when they announced.
I don't know why they waited with the direct. Like that was all. I mean, they could have still done a direct, I guess, for more of a deep dive. But if they wanted to get people excited that day, like they could have.
Yeah, like they're making a Pokemon game for that. I don't care what they keep saying. They're probably making a Pokemon game for that. They're probably making an Animal Crossing game for that.
Yeah.
They're probably making like another Yarn-esque game for that. So like they have.
I like how that's its own subgenre now.
Yeah, another Epic Yarn Woolly World game for that. And I'm okay with that being a subgenre. Please, yes, continue that series. But like I get it. So I feel better about it knowing that okay, well they're probably making other stuff. They just don't want to talk about it because they're weird in Nintendo. So I'm more positive about it that they're going to announce other things that are probably coming out this year. Soon, probably at E3 too.
You would hope, definitely.
honestly, like Zelda, I've said it in my Alex talks, and I've said it multiple times. Like Zelda's definitely enough for me. Like whatever. I know people are like, that's not enough for me anymore. I'm like, okay, sure, you're jaded by this, but I still love Nintendo games, and I
I
still.
said, yeah, I said last week on the show, like, I think, like, I'm being 100% truthful too. Like, everything I've seen of Breath of the Wild so far, it's shaping up to be potentially maybe one of the best games of all time. Like, I will go to that fullest extent with it. Like, I think that game looks absolutely incredible.
It feels like it's delivering on the dream that Zelda's always wanted to deliver on. And I'm still like more worried about it because like the items that break always has me concerned. It's always like a
Far Cry 2 thing.
Yeah, check yourself moment of like, well, this item deterioration. Oh boy. Played a lot of that. What's it? Not Until Dawn. The other one. Open world.
Dying Light.
Dying Light. Thank you. I'm glad I could say
Until Dawn. Dying Light. Yeah.
You knew exactly what I was talking about. I played a lot of Dying Light. I love that game, but like item deterioration, man. Ooh, it can really change the pace of a game. So like but like Zelda, like Nintendo makes games that no one else makes. No one else knows how to make Nintendo games.
No.
And so their games will still be enough for me. I understand that that's not enough for some people. That's fine. You can go be off in your sad, dark corner, but like Nintendo still makes games that play better than most other games.
I'm buying a Switch for Nintendo games, but my thing is just needs to be more of them. And I was expecting that after they essentially killed off the last 12 to 18 months of the Wii U's first party like software lineup. Like you expected them to have more stakes in the fire and like ready to go for this event, and they just either they do have a lot going and they just didn't talk about it for whatever reason, or they legitimately just don't really have a whole lot going on that they could show right now. They're in a weird nebulous area with that, and I don't know what to think of it right now. I do agree Zelda is enough for me on launch, at least, because I will be playing that game for a really long time. I'm wondering, so with the whole item deterioration thing, I'm wondering if it'll make it that much sweeter though when you inevitably do get the Master Sword.
The Master Sword that never breaks, yeah.
Yes, and you're like, oh man, okay, yeah. This is nice now. This is way nicer than normal.
It's the long burn. It's long con, yeah.
Yeah, my biggest concern is they just don't feel that game world enough. But after seeing that last trailer, there is a ton of characters in that game, it looks like. So yeah. I think I'll be okay with that.
A piece on it because like they did Twilight Princess, which is where they tried to make a big world and they didn't fill it with anything. Like I don't think they're going to make that mistake again.
I don't think so either. And I mean, even the E3 demo, like you run over to the Temple of Time and there's like a dude standing outside of it. Like I think it'll be a lot more small, like things like that. Like, hey, is that a dude over there? I'll just run and talk to that dude. And so
yeah,
should be. I don't know. I think they'll do a good job with it though, because you're right. Hopefully they've learned from Twilight Princess.
That reveal trailer and then like the title of it, even like Breath of the Wild, like this is a world. It's wild. These are the wild lands of Hyrule, like it makes it feel like, and you remember that launcher of like the animals kind of going through and just showing the world and all the different diverse parts of it, like the snowy area, the volcanic area and stuff like that. It feels like they're trying to make this feel like a place. And Skyward Sword absolutely did not do that. And Twilight Princess was too barren to even attempt to do that. I feel like they've really learned what they want Zelda games to be, and then you play A Link Between Worlds where they like totally changed the format of that game, and I think they're like, all right, what if we this is what we want our world to be, this is what we want our mechanics to be, let's mash them together, let's make something special. And that's what Breath of the Wild really feels like, a culmination of those ideas.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like they've just taken everything that's worked from the past few Zelda games and they're putting them all together. Hopefully you don't rent items though, because I hated that.
You hated that?
It was good at first. Like I actually dug it, and then I was like, it felt dirty to me that I could go buy any item at any point. Like
That's great.
Zelda is so formulaic, but I like that. Like, okay, I'll go to a temple. I will get this item midway through the temple. I will defeat a mini boss. I will get the item after the mini boss. I will use that item through the rest of the temple, and then I will utilize that item to defeat the boss that is at the end of this. I love that structure, and it is so cut and dry, and they do it in almost every Zelda game. But that it feels good to me to then just be able to go up to this weird bunny dude and just be like, "Yo, what up? Give me that boomerang over there." It was really jarring and strange, and
It's the fringe benefits of like kind of suffering through an awkward mechanic that you I feel like you need to go to that game for of like, well, now you can go to any dungeon in any order, and they can use that item throughout the whole dungeon, so they can escalate difficulty of the puzzles they build around that item, so that by the end you're doing stuff with that item that you could have never thought you would be doing. And like that, like the San Juan stuff, like where you build the walls and then
Yeah,
2D against the wall and then go around it. Like
that was
oh,
nuts.
it's so good, man. Like, and there's that consistent like of pressing up against the wall. This consistent mechanic that they're using throughout the whole game that just changes everything. It's so good.
I really liked Link Between Worlds.
Link Between Worlds is
just to
fantastic.
clarify, I didn't.
Rational Passions might call that their game of the year for 2013. I think this was.
Might.
Yeah,
it was really good. Once I started playing it, I couldn't stop. I think I played through it in like a day and a half or something like that, which was surprising to me because I didn't know it was going to be that good. I was thinking it was going to be really similar to Phantom Hourglass and the Choo Choo Train one.
Yeah, so Link to the Past is my favorite Zelda game. So man, that was just like a delicious sandwich.
You probably liked it then.
Oh yeah, just chipping away at it, finding all the hard pieces, and just spending so much time in that world, getting secrets and everything. God, that game is phenomenal.
I've wanted to go back to it, but I haven't, like many other games. So yeah, I guess I was just curious to hear what you thought about Switch. I guess
I'm more positive on the Switch. Like you think about like this, Zelda, Mario, Odyssey, which damn, is that
looks so good, dude.
It's crazy how
I hate the people who are like, it looks like Sonic. I'm like, you shut your mouth.
It looks like Sonic 06 in the way that Sonic 06 should have been good, though. And it's crazy and it's awesome. Like,
yeah, like everybody's like scared to touch Mario now because he's in a New Donk City or whatever. I'm like,
New
it
Donk
looks
City. Come on, it's so crazy. It's dumb. But it's like also Nintendo dumb, and they have so much fun with it. Like Bowser in like the pimp suit. Like, what is going on?
That's I love that though. Like
it's so good.
I say it all the time. Like my favorite thing about video games is that they are stupid. They're so stupid, but we're
especially like Mario games. You know?
Mario games are really stupid. Like the example I bring up all the time is BioShock. Like you're in this dark world, but you can go and smack a dude over the head with a wrench, loot through his pockets, find some potato chips, and eat them. Heal yourself. Like that's just really dumb.
Kind of dumb, yeah. It's just no. Mario looks amazing, and just like everything about it like is great. And that's first year, right? Getting a Mario game in the first 12 months of a Nintendo launch hasn't happened in so long. Like, didn't happen with the Wii. Like I guess Mario Galaxy 1 did come out in 2007, but that was like a full year later.
Yeah, it was pretty
later.
close to the 1 year mark, I think.
But like GameCube, Mario Sunshine didn't come out for years until after that game came out and that system came out. And I know people don't like that game. I love that game, but
I love Mario Sunshine too.
Yeah. So like that, and then Splatoon 2, which Splatoon is awesome, and now hopefully more people will play Splatoon.
See, that was my thing with Splatoon, though, is I felt like that needed, out of all of the games that they announced, I felt like Splatoon needed to be a launch game because I mentioned this all last week. I'm so much more likely to purchase a game day one along with the system. Like I purchased so many stupid PSVR games at launch, essentially just because I wanted to play them. It launched for the Switch. I honestly don't think I'm getting anything else besides Zelda, which sucks. But if there was other things with it, I probably would have caved and bought them purely because I'm like, I need new things to play with for this device. And while I still might get Splatoon 2 whenever it comes out, like that was a good multiplayer game to have up front at launch. Be like, hey, we know everybody's going to get Zelda. Here's a game to go right along with that. It's multiplayer to counterbalance your single player experience that you're having. And I feel like they whiffed by not releasing Splatoon 2 in launch. Like it just makes sense to me to have that game come out that soon. And I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, there was a lot of stuff. Like, why is ARMS not out at launch? Like, that's March still, and it's not.
Why is Mario Kart 8 not out at launch? It's a freaking
April,
port.
Yeah.
It's just strange.
But like, I feel like they're like intentionally staggering it out, which I guess makes sense. Like, you'll have a new Switch game every week for a couple of months, which is cool. There hasn't really been a launch like that, so they're trying something different. Again, like I'm like into ARMS also.
You're into ARMS?
Yeah, I'm kind of down with whatever that game's doing, so that also helps. So like ARMS, Splatoon 2, Zelda, and Mario in the first 9 months is a strong case.
Plus whatever else they're doing with Virtual Console.
And like I want to play Fire Emblem Warriors. Like,
Did you play Hyrule Warriors?
I didn't play Hyrule Warriors. I keep saying I'm gonna play these Warriors games, and then I never end up doing it. But like, I feel like Fire Emblem Warriors specifically lends itself to that format because I've always wanted an action-based Fire Emblem game
Mm-hmm.
just for fun, and this is a great just for fun idea. So
It looks good.
looks
I'm
alright.
getting in one day one, mainly because I just want to support Nintendo. I just want to show them one last time, look, I'm here. I'm going to support your product. I don't know if you're going to deliver in the end, but I trust you, and please don't break my heart with this.
Yeah.
So here's $300. Please don't screw it up. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited. Looking forward to it. I'm sure Zelda will be gospel.
Yeah, I'm also tentatively excited about that hardware. Like, I want to see how that feels.
It's mainly why I want to get it too. Like, just the thought of playing Zelda on my Wii U is like, all right. I guess I could use the tablet for my item screen. I guess that'd be cool, but
Yeah, man, that tablet looks rough after seeing like the Switch itself.
Mhm.
Like,
it looks like a
that's
Fisher Price toy.
yeah, it's like the Switch is such a slick looking device.
Yeah.
And the Wii U gamepad is not.
So did you pre-order one then? What color did you get?
When I pre-ordered it, there was just gray available. I wish I got me some neons, but
Why did they make the controllers different colored? That was like my big question.
mess it up, man. Mess with the patriarchy.
Like
Is what I'm
that's
saying.
that's a Nintendo move to make. So just
I mean, if we want to get into accessory prices, they made a lot of mistakes. So
yeah, for sure. $50.
I don't know what they're doing with that kind of stuff, but hopefully they'll figure it out. Hopefully those things will drop in price. They probably won't for at least 2 years, but I can keep my fingers crossed.
So yeah, Switch looks good.
Topics? Is that a thing?
Yeah, sure. I guess we'll transition to topics, or this whole show's not really had too much structure to it.
Freestyling.
Yeah, we'll start with yours. What's up with?
So you and I talked about what you were most looking forward to.
We did.
In your top 10 that people can go listen to, that they should listen to, along with many other fine Irrational Passions content.
All the others. Yeah.
But I also want to go through what we're most worried about in 2017. So there's a lot to be worried about.
Yeah, kind of. Most worried.
Mm-hmm.
I guess closest I could say RE7 doesn't scratch the Resident Evil itch that I want it to.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm starting to feel pretty confident that it will.
Yeah.
So that's closest. Horizon, I played it at PSX and I liked it. I thought the gameplay was dope, but I have no idea how that world's going to be. I have no idea what the story's going to be like. I don't know what the moment-to-moment stuff's going to be like in that game. And I wouldn't say I'm necessarily worried about it because I'm totally there day one, and I was like I was really sold on the gameplay at PSX more than anything. Like it is the moment-to-moment combat and interacting with the creatures and the environment and stuff like that is totally awesome. Like I was totally into all of that, but I still just feel like we haven't seen enough of that game really to know what's up with it. Is like, I don't know. We've seen it for a while, but I still don't feel like I'm any more clear on certain mechanics to the game or the story or anything like that. And I know they released a story trailer last week, but I decided to skip out on watching that and just because it's so close that I'll just figure out what the story is when I play
The story
it.
trailer wasn't too bad. It kind of sets up the premise of the game, though. If you don't want to know that. Yeah, I had a few. I'm just like looking through the big list of video games right now. Horizon is a worrisome one. Like I haven't played it, right? But I just like, I don't know. I'm getting these vibes that this is going to be like more of like a normal open world game than like I had seen than like the Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider open world game.
No, that's definitely like Zelda looks so unique with its open world or something like that.
Zelda looks like a place I want to explore. Right. That I could just hang out by like a cliffside and find a couple of things and like be cool there for like an hour. Horizon seems a bit more like, all right, go to this village, get this quest, go do the quest, come back to this village. Like I don't know how much I want to hang out in that world. And like that all depends on how it's structured. Like for me, like I'm not a big GTA guy because like I never wanted to spend any more time in that world than I had to, right? I know I'm like very much the minority in that, but if it's like more of a traditional open world game, not even like a Ubisoft open world game, but a traditional one, I don't know. It's got me worried.
No, that makes I get you with GTA. Yeah, Horizon looks very much like Far Cry to me, and I'm hoping that the world is unique enough. But yeah, I don't want Horizon to just be one of those games where it's a bunch of checklists. Like, oh, I got all the outposts, I got all of the I I don't know, what was that demo they showed at the PS4 Pro event, like where you just climbed on top of one of those Stegosaurus robot things and flipped the switch. Yeah, whatever
the
it
Ubisoft
was.
Tower robot. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever that was, and you just flip the switch. Like I could see there being like 15 of those on the map, and you just have to like flip the switch on all of those, which be fine, I guess. But like, I don't want it to be that kind of game. I want it to introduce something new that I haven't seen before.
How big is the world? How do I get around it in a reasonable amount of time? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, the world's mainly the main thing I'm not sold on, but the gameplay is awesome. Like I can vouch for it's really cool to pin a robo dinosaur to the ground and then go up and hack it, and then all of a sudden it's your buddy walking by you. That's really cool.
Running right around with a bow and shoot explosive arrows at giant corrupted dinos. Like that's cool as well. Breath of the Wild, I'm only worried about it for the reasons I said earlier, just like item deterioration and stuff like that. Like hopefully that game doesn't become too chore-like to play. I'm sure the curve of that is good though.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not as worried about that because it feels like they've delayed that enough times to know that like they're really trying to get this right. Mm-hmm. But Mass Effect Andromeda, that's the big one.
Oh my, really?
A lot of question marks on Mass Effect Andromeda.
I'm gonna say that the way I'm viewing Mass Effect right now is probably the way you're viewing Persona 5.
Okay.
Like, so because I'm gonna assume you're not really all that worried about Persona 5, are you?
No.
I'm not really that worried about Andromeda. I'm not. I just think it's gonna be phenomenal.
Like, where are you at with the Mass Effect trilogy? What is the best Mass Effect?
Best Mass Effect's 2. Duh.
Correct.
Get it right. Mass Effect it's probably like top 3 favorite series for me. Like Metal Gear, Mass Effect, Zelda. Like I'd say that's like short list for me of my favorite franchises ever.
Okay.
I'm way in on Mass Effect.
Okay, yeah, it's just like here's the thing is with Mass Effect Andromeda, it's funny because I love the universe of Mass Effect, and we're very removed from it. Last time I played Mass Effect, I was kind of like half replaying 2 a year after Mass Effect 3 came out, so it was like 2013. It's been a while. It's been a minute. It's been like 4 years. So, and I like that universe, but I'm distanced from it. It's just like we're leaving the Milky Way. We're leaving everything I know and I'm comfortable with. It's 500 years later. So it's just like these Pathfinder groups, like these 10,000 aliens that went to Andromeda or whatever. And it's just like, are there any characters I'm going to care about? Are there loyalty missions? I think they said
there are loyalty missions, yeah.
Good. Like, is there, like, the thing is, because the thing, they set up the premise of, like, you have a crew already. I'm like, building the team is the best part about Mass Effect 2. I'm a sucker for a caper, right? So the part where you're like assembling the team is such a thing for me.
Hey, so are you not going to be assembling a team at all then? Like,
I don't know.
Or is it going to be like you have a team? Like
they said like
there's always the Karth or the Jacob or what?
You are the Pathfinder, so like the head of one crew.
Yeah.
Right? So you already have a diverse crew of different aliens, right? So I'm like, is there a part where like you're building a team?
I would assume so.
Do you add people onto this team? Because that's a part of Mass Effect, and that's a part of, like, a big part of Mass Effect.
I mean, you would think yes, because doesn't even Dragon Age Inquisition start off and they're like, you're the Inquisitor, but not everybody's really following you at that point.
Yeah.
If I'm correct. So I can't remember how Inquisition starts because I put like 150 hours into that game. I don't remember the first 3 hours. Yeah.
Beginning of Inquisition. So
and that's kind of what I'm expecting them to do with Mass Effect. Like, you would think that you're going to get party members. You'll probably start with your brother or your sister, whichever one you choose to play as. You'll have them as the starting partner. Yeah. And then maybe 1 or 2 other people from the ship, if I had to guess. But I don't really know. It looks like you almost kind of crash land into that world, just judging by the trailers. And I'm wondering what's up with that.
It's just like, so there's a whole bunch of people from Milky Way in this galaxy, but like and I guess we've seen a little bit of the antagonists that I guess are Andromedan like natives, but like I was kind of hoping like new lore, new Andromeda, they've got their own future tech, like for it to get weird and stuff. So
Yeah.
again, there's just so many question marks, and I don't want to know too much, but they haven't shown me anything in particular that instills confidence with me.
See, that's my thing. Judging off of what you're concerned about, it sounds like if they do follow up with those things and they follow through with them when you're actually playing the game, then it's
Yeah.
going to be like that much more satisfying because they didn't talk about it up until release.
Yeah.
So if you are playing the game and like all those things that you want to do come to fruition, which I think there's a good chance most of them will,
Yeah.
then that satisfaction will be so much higher because they decided not to reveal everything about their game leading up to launch compared to some other developers, which do. Yeah, I don't know. The Andromeda, going to the Andromeda Galaxy thing, though, I think that was needed, obviously, especially after the ending of 3.
Yeah, no baggage. Right?
It's such a smart relaunch. Like, this is one of the smarter relaunches of a franchise I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
God of War, I think, is actually another really good one.
Very
like,
similar idea.
Where that just makes sense for them to do that. I love the concept. I love the overall concept. We'll see what happens once you actually get into that world. Like, is the Andromeda Galaxy as compelling as the Milky Way? Because there are a lot of touchstones in the Milky Way galaxy that I like. Like, I love the Citadel. I love I love the political structure to Mass Effect. Like, that's one of my favorite things about that franchise is how all of that fits together. And there are these fringe groups like Cerberus.
Yeah.
Cerberus. That's one. It's been
Elusive
so long
Man.
since I've played
Cerberus.
Elusive Man rules.
Yeah.
I like the structure to everything in Mass Effect 1. That or just the Mass Effect trilogy. Like that world, the way that world is set up that's the main reason why I love it. Like, I like the characters, but it's that universe is why I'm so invested in it. I'm hoping the Andromeda Galaxy is just as compelling. I think it will be because it's BioWare and I trust them with like that world building aspects of their games. Like, I always think that first time around when they're creating something new, like, they typically do a good job of it. Like, the first Dragon Age I thought was a good foray into what that world is going to be like. I imagine they will do a good job with building whatever the Galaxy of Andromeda looks like. But yeah, I don't know. We haven't seen, like, I have a bunch of questions about it too. Like, I don't know how it's really going to all shake down. And the one thing I do want, though, and they've shown a little bit of it, I want this game to be just as RPG focused as the first Mass Effect, but retain the action and combat mechanics of the second Mass Effect. And I thought Mass Effect 2 had a good balance between 1 and what was eventually 3, where it seemed like there was like no RPG mechanics at that point. It was very light, at least. But I like how much you could tailor your character in the first game. And I hope that Andromeda really allows you to do that again. And just, I don't know. I like all the different skill tree options from the first game. And then they just shrunk as the series went on, which sucked.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the other two are like, there's a car again. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? Because I'm like totally sold that they'll get it right this time around.
I hope so. Like, if they get it right, they get it right. Right? But Mako, man, rough.
If they get it right, then that makes exploring every planet that much more interesting, I think.
Yeah, but like, I don't want it to also be a thing where, like, as soon as enemies show up, I just run back in the Mako and then awkwardly park it at the beginning of this entrance hole and then just shoot the cannon into the hole until all the enemies are gone. I don't want it to be that, but like the combat that they showed in that gameplay trailer, I thought looked awesome. You know,
I did too.
It's just like they said, like, you go to planets and then you explore those planets. I'm like, oh god, open world syndrome. I'm worried about this again. But like that could just be, if it's like Inquisition. I think exploring the areas in Inquisition was fun.
I did too.
That wasn't my prime beef, my chief beef with Inquisition. But yeah, I don't know. I just, Inquisition really burned me for the multiple reasons, but I'm just concerned. I have a lot of question marks. I'm definitely going to get it, and I definitely want to believe that there's going to be another great Mass Effect game. But we'll see.
I trust BioWare. They're one of my favorites. So
it's hard. Like, I liked Mass Effect 3, and like I was okay with the ending, and then I wasn't okay with it, and then I got over it.
3's my least favorite by a mile. Like, it wasn't even the ending that bothered me with 3. It was the pacing. Like, I felt like the climax of that game happened 5 minutes in, and then everything else, like, there was just a drop. And I was like, this is such strange pacing. Like, oh, the galaxy's ending. Go put together a ragtag group of individuals to defeat the Reapers. It was jarring for me. And I liked putting all of the groups all the team together.
I think the
But-
moments in 3 though are some of the best, just in video games. Like,
Yeah.
Like the payoffs of like that trilogy were great. Like, you know, you think about meeting Tally at the beginning of the first game, and then where that goes in 3 is like it's like space opera craziness. And
There's a lot of good moments in 3. The payoffs with the Krogan were cool, and with
like the Morden moment.
The Morden moment's awesome. I was disappointed with the Miranda stuff in that game, and I dug her from the second game, and then her whole side story in 3. I was like, this is really boring. So,
but like,
I was into her too. Like she was my girl.
Yeah, Liara was my girl. So you get a great Liara moment in 3. Oh boy,
I think I've looked it up on YouTube.
it's like it was poignant. But yeah, like Cerberus in 3 is also really great. The Elusive Man in 3 is really great.
I like Elusive Man a lot. I still think that one of the best moments of the entire series, if not the best, is that final Shepard, Elusive Man, and what's his name? Anderson. Yeah. That scene is so good. And so I got to that
just ended there, man.
I got to that point, and I beat the game like a month after everybody else did. I was taking my time with it for some reason, and everybody was just like, the ending's so bad, the ending's so bad, the ending's so bad. And I got to that point, and I was like, what is everybody talking about? This is like the best thing I've ever seen. And then 5 minutes after that, turn into Crazyville. It's like, oh man, I didn't want this. So
yeah, I mean, like I've grown less bitter about that. I think the ending's fine.
The ending doesn't even bother me because I was so, again, I beat it later than everybody else, and I was just expecting like the worst thing ever. And it was weird, don't get me wrong, but my head had manufactured some strange things that were going to happen, it was nothing like what ended up happening.
Did you find out like about the 4th ending that they added with the update, that
like his DLC later? I heard about it, but I heard that if you wanted to actually like see it through, then you needed
shoot the boy and then it goes bad.
Oh yeah. I forgot
that. I did that as a joke when I like went and replayed it, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't expect this to be a thing."
What happens? I forget.
It just cuts it cuts to essentially the end of the world.
It's
and
actually
everybody dies.
It's actually really funny that you would do that, because the entire game you're like dreaming about that kid, and then you finally come face to face with him again, just pop him right.
Well, he was talking, and I was like, "Oh, this again," and I just shot him, and then it was like, "So be it," and then it ends, and it cuts to Liara's message that she was composing of like, "Here's all the information about our civilization." Like it cuts to like a desert, and then like that like message playing on loop underneath the ground.
I think the problem with the ending is that there were so many questions that ending didn't provide an answer to. Like it was like an Inside or a Limbo, where it's like, I have so many questions, but like in a good way. With Mass Effect, like you reach the end of it and you're like, oh, I don't want, like, was he asleep? Was he like tied to the Reapers?
It didn't feel like a resolution.
Yeah, BioWare never talked about it either. They never really came forth. So it's like there's all these hypotheses about like what actually happened at the end of the game, but you don't know. And it's like, again, like that's really good with Inside. Like that's why I like Inside so much, is because it is so like, what just happened? That's
like,
not what I wanted with
honestly, I thought it should have been more ambiguous, because like if it ended like, and you only see the ending from Shepard's perspective, but you know the choice that you made, but you don't know like like if they hadn't showed like all the relays being destroyed and like the Citadel falling apart or whatever,
and seeing
like
Joker and all those people.
Yeah, if you had just like seen Shepard like did the button, and you see like maybe like a Reaper dies or does whatever it ends up doing, and then it ends, like you're like, okay, like I know the decision I made, and I know that some of that did end up happening, but I don't know what the repercussions of that were. And like you're kind of left with that as the final thought. It would have been a better feeling, I think, because they showed like weirdly too much.
Yeah, I agree.
Like your crew in the middle of a relay and then getting stranded between 2 relays, and all the relays being destroyed, but then on some endings they're getting rebuilt again. And it's like, well, do they get rebuilt? Do they work again ever? It's just too many questions.
It was just, and then your crew ending up on that planet, and it was just like,
it's like, why did my crew end up on that planet?
It was like they were like trying to set up a sequel almost with that ending to me. I was like, what? I'm really confused.
It like, it burned me that like it feels like Synthesis was like the right choice when like I didn't choose that. Like
I didn't choose. I didn't like that option. But I agree with you. That seems like the right one. But I
but
thought
it
that was
also seems
dumb.
like the wrong one. Like diversity is like what makes, especially like as I've grown up
Mhm.
since then, like diversity makes everything better, I think. So by like cop out, let's just fuse everything together so that we don't have to fight ever again. It's like, yeah, well, that's like, this is like some post-apocalyptic, like dark, like this is the giver shit right here. Like
Yeah.
where we take everything that makes us different out of the equation.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's like, that's not the route I want to go with
Plus, I
this.
didn't like the idea of Joker now being able to bang what's her face, the AI.
Edie? No, that was
Edie.
happening beforehand regardless. That was going down.
That was going down
God,
beforehand
what they
for
did
sure.
with Edie in that game was great. Oh,
I
so
did like
good.
that. I
Oh.
did like it. Reminded me of like Ultron or something like
Yeah,
that.
dude, but like good and it's great, just great because Edie was the best part about 2 in a lot of ways. And
That's right.
man, Mass Effect's all right. Okay, I'm back on board.
You're back on board.
Yeah, the moments in that series are better than the kind of like the resolutions. So,
I agree, and I wasn't. Well, I think three's the worst, but it wasn't because of the ending, like so many others. So that's just those are all top notch games, and that's
yeah,
why
Mass Effect 2 though.
Mass Effect 2 is so good.
That's
So
that's
good.
that's 5 out of 5.
So
That's a good
that's
game.
a whatever highest number you want to put it at out of whatever. Like that's yeah, Mass Effect 2. I think it's like number 3 or 4 on my all time favorite list. Like
Yeah,
that
same.
is way up there for me.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of what else I'm worried about this year. Yooka-laylee in a very like I'm not really worried about it because I'm like thoroughly convinced it's going to be Banjo 3 and I'm going to
Yeah,
weep and it's going
I've
to
seen
be
that
so
game
good.
in my face, and yeah,
So I know you've seen it. I've played it though. The controls are touchy in a way that I didn't want them to be. Like I wrote up a whole preview about it after I played it. They're really sensitive in like a very strange way. Like when you do that move where
you roll up the
think you
ball.
yeah roll up in a ball, it's like totally you feel like you're out of control when you're operating that. And like I was playing it in front of the guy there and he's like, oh, you're having trouble with that? I'm like, yeah, it's controls really weird. And it's super sensitive and the platforming is I don't want to say it felt clunky. I think the problem with it was I was just so not used to it. Because we haven't there hasn't been a game like that in forever. So me jumping back into it is like, what? Okay, this is really weird. And so I think after some time with it, I'll be used to it again. But just those first 10 or 15 minutes I spent with it were jarring.
Yeah, my thing is like I wrote a thing that I never ended up publishing about the tutorial area of Banjo-Kazooie. It's like one of the best tutorials of a video game ever because it's essentially
Yeah, I'm thinking about it now. I couldn't
it's like
remember.
you walk out of your house, right, and there's like a tower in the beginning and then a bridge that goes off to the game, right? But this area, small area, breaks off into like these 6 little quadrants, or I guess not quadrants technically, but 6 little
quadrants.
areas
Yeah.
that all are just all about one mechanic, right? And you just go into each area and it teaches you that mechanic. And there's like a honeycomb piece in each area. And then the last mechanic that you do, you go up the middle and then you get the last honeycomb piece and you get a piece of heart just for learning all the mechanics. It's like, oh, this is so good. This is just brilliant. Like, and you can skip the tutorial or you can choose to do it. Like it, and that era of games, like that was not really a thing. It was like almost all 3D games early on tutorialized you and made you listen to the tutorials because like 3D games were still new. So yeah. So I think if they put in a good area like that, that game will be all right.
I agree. It's going to be good. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, dude. April. It's going to be a good month.
I can't really think of anything else I'm super worried about. I feel like the last half of the year is like super nebulous right now. We got Red Dead and
Red Dead.
Mario.
That's it, yeah. Like
And
maybe,
Red Dead's not going to be bad because Rockstar. And so,
yeah.
okay, I'm sold.
We'll see.
I'm trying to think of, I don't know. It really is like weird. There's not too much else.
There's a lot of stuff that's announced, but we don't know when it is going to hit in that last half of the year or so. Like Sea of Thieves and
I
Red
am a
Dead
little worried
2,
about that. Yeah.
Crackdown 3, Fire Emblem Warriors. Like these are all games that are probably coming out in the latter half of the year. But
Sea of Thieves, I'm a bit worried about. I'm more worried that it may not be my type of game more than
it's
I'm worried about
Destiny,
like, it may be bad.
but with pirates, like I'm good. Like there might be a Destiny sequel coming out this year. Also, I just want to throw it
that's
out
true.
there.
I'm not a Destiny guy at all.
I wasn't, and then I am.
See, I may jump in on 2. That we've talked about that before too, because Max is a huge Destiny guy, and I'm like, well, everybody's concerned about like not being able to bring your characters over or something like that. I'm like, I think it's smart for them to hard reset, like because if they don't, then I'm definitely not jumping in. But if it is a total clean slate for everybody, then I may be lured into it. We'll have to see. But I feel like it's really unwelcoming for new players if they don't want the slate.
It's the thing, like I really don't care because like you have to essentially start from square one every time there's an expansion anyway. It's happened twice in that game, and it's fun to start from a low place and build up high. And like I can't see a sequel game that doesn't have you start from level 1, no matter what. Like, it doesn't make sense if there's a new story and new content to play through. If you started at level 40 and then play from 40 to 80 or whatever, it just doesn't, like, what? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Unless there's like a hard mode version of that content and an easy mode version of that content. But then you're already trapping yourself in the problem that Destiny 1 had, where you play through the easy mode version to 1 through 40, and then you play through the hard mode version, all the same content again, 40 through 80 for new players, and then you're just burning that bridge right out the gate. It just doesn't make any sense. They should just have you start fresh.
Bungie will be smart about it. There's a few companies where it's like, who's developing this? All right, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
So Bungie's one of those.
Destiny did get really great with its expansion, so
I'd like to jump into it. I played it for a couple hours, and the one thing I did come away with is that like the shooting mechanics are so good, dude.
It feels real good.
It feels awesome. So if I can get in on the ground floor of whatever Destiny 2 is, then I might. But we'll see what happens. I don't want to. I'm so hesitant to, but maybe
it's
I will.
Time sink, man. But those raids are some of the best stuff I've seen in first-person shooters. So
one game I just thought of that I was like super hyped about, and it's out in March, if I'm correct, is Ghost Recon Wildlands. Like, why have we not seen more of that game?
I'm worried about that game.
Yeah, I am too. And like,
I don't think that game's gonna be very good, but that's just me.
I don't think it's gonna come out in March. I'm still not convinced it's coming out in March. Even
I mean, like For Honor is coming out in April or February.
Yeah,
and that's like another Ubisoft game. Like those games coming out close to each other is worrisome.
I feel like they're putting both of those out to die. For Honor, I don't think is gonna have a huge audience in the first place, and I think they know that up front. About it, so, really?
Yeah. There's like a For Honor group. I think that group is big enough that they will at least make a profit on that game.
See, that's the thing is I don't know if it'll chart very high, but I think the people who do jump into it may stick with it. It's one of those niche games where like if you like it, then you're really gonna like it. But if you don't, then you have no interest in it. Yeah, Wildlands is weird though. We saw that one E3 demo and then now it's out. Like it's been so quiet. Which is strange for Ubisoft, especially. I don't know why they're being so quiet with both of those. I wonder if it has something to do with the hostile takeover they're trying to prevent. But you wouldn't think so. I don't know. It's a really strange time for them as a company right now, and I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about Ubisoft. Like Watch Dogs 2 didn't chart as well as they thought it would. Rainbow Six has found a second life within the latter half of 2016, which was good to hear.
I think they're okay.
I think they're going to be fine in the end, but it is like weird that they are putting out 2 games so close together.
They got an Assassin's Creed game coming out this year, so
that's true. And then whatever that game is, they teased in Watch Dogs 2, which was actually a really cool mission to play through.
That's cool. What about your topic? Do you have anything?
Yeah. So basically, look at you being the host of the show.
I can't turn off.
No, I was actually gonna switch to that because I know we have been going on for a while, and I don't want to keep you here until the late hours of the night. So yeah, I just basically wanted to talk about. Mine was more just why do you want to be in this industry? Because like we've had so many people who come on the show, and it seems like more often than not they want to try to break into games coverage somehow, and it's just I don't know. There's so many of us, and to your credit, I think you're hustling way more than most are. So that's a compliment for you. You're definitely doing way more than I am right now. But yeah, like what is it that like made you want to get into doing what it is you want to eventually be doing full time? I don't know what inspired you and made you want to get to this point, stuff like that.
I mean, like, it's funny. I have a very similar story to probably a lot of those people that you've talked to. Like, old Podcast Beyond fan. And I listened to an episode, like episode 80 something, like 83 or 84, whatever. And like that, I was still pretty new to video games podcasts. Like I jumped into GameScoop and Beyond because it's like, oh, IGN's a site that I go to often.
Yeah.
Without really knowing any of the people that worked there. Like the people that I knew that worked there was like Mark Bozon and Matt Casamassina. And that's like old guard too. So that's like original group. And you know, like this big chuckle fuck named Greg Miller out there yelling about going to school for journalism and then being a video games journalist.
Sure.
And
I'm really glad you put it in quotations. By the way. Thank you.
But yeah, and like, and he talked about that not being a journalist, but being someone who like reading EGM and being like, oh wait, people do this? I want to do this. This is what I want to do. And I was like 14. I was like, yeah. Wait, is that a thing that people do? Yeah. No, I want to do that. And it changed over time. I guess it refined itself over time to be more of focus, and like I think I have a lot to say about video games. Like in the reason of like why do you want to be in the industry of like I think like highlighting the things that the industry needs is a big important thing, like diversity and more female voices and more people of color. Like it's ironic for a white guy to say that. I was going to say
us two white guys sitting here talking about how we want to break into the industry.
Yeah, and it sucks, but like, you know, I've never said that like knowing that there is more than enough of people like us in that industry. Like, I would never say, like, I should just give up and let other people step up because, like, you should always go after your dream, whatever it is. And I say that to reinforce it to the people of diverse origins out there that, like, they should also double down on that. But, yeah, just, like, you know, video games are a really special thing because they are different because there's so much personal agency over them, right? The big thing, like, I've taken away from the last few years of just this veracity to the bad parts of the games industry and also the good parts of just like the folks that send death threats and the folks that write video series and do all these things is there is like an ownership to a playthrough of a video game. Like people are so defensive of their games because I think there's a part of it that they feel like they own and they feel like is theirs, and anytime someone disagrees with them it feels like you're being personally attacked. I think that's not the way we should look at it, and I think embracing that feeling of ownership is a big part of that as well. So, like, you know, when I do all of my videos and all of my writings and everything, the thing that I always epitomize is empathy. And if, like, I was to answer the question of, like, why do I want to be in this industry? One, because I want to do it. It's a thing I'm very passionate about. It's an industry I actually care about, where I don't care about anything else. Nearly as much, at least. But also I want to bring more empathy to how people talk and listen to conversations about games.
It's a really interesting point. Like I haven't really thought of that before, but when I think about it, like subconsciously how I view it, like I probably try to treat it the same way as much as I can. There are moments where I'm like, no, like this is objectively awful. I'm sorry, you're wrong.
But like, think about like if you had a conversation with somebody, they don't know you, you don't know them, and they were like, "Yeah, I tried Mass Effect, but that stuff's stupid and like aliens are dumb. It's just like it plays like garbage." Like that would hurt you, and like to just be so passively dismissive of something that you really, really love, but like this person really doesn't love and really maybe even actively hates. Like that, there needs to be like a middle ground where you all can understand each other, and like being able to kind of get away from that hyperbole of like this is dumb and garbage and I didn't like it so it's bad. To get more to a thing of like this didn't really work for me, but I understand why it worked for you. Just to have those kind of grown up conversations. I feel like there's just not enough of that in video games.
No, I totally agree. I think a lot of the reason for that is because, I mean, people have said it before, video games are really like the only form of media that like fights back against you. Like you have to actively input something into playing a video game. So it's so much easier I think it's so much easier with like TV and film to just be like, this is objectively good. Like you may love this, but like this is objectively good. Where you're right, like certain things people may love in this industry that like you personally hate, but like it's hard to speak to necessarily. It's hard to speak and like say with like firmly like no that is good or that is bad or not even like rating something on based on like a score or something like that, but instead just like people do have so much different opinions in games specifically because you don't know what it is they're going through necessarily. That's the thing too, is that there's so many games that I've played that I know are bad, but because of something personally is going on with me at the time or something like that, like the way I play that game may have latched onto me a little bit more than it should have or something like that. Like
Exactly.
yeah, it's that one-to-one input that you are having with the game that like may force you to bond with it in a way that you didn't expect, but like because of that to then hear somebody else say no that game sucks, it's like, well, it kind of means something more special to me for this reason or another. So
there's ownership there. Like there's a part of you in that game, to you at least, and that is what makes video games unique. Is that little you give a little into that game, and it gives a lot back into you, right? And then that game is a part of you, and you own a part of that. And people have gotten so jaded and cynical with it. Like we're sitting here talking about Nintendo games. Like Nintendo games have clearly given the both of us a great deal, and I think we recognize and respect what Nintendo tries to do with their games. But so many people are just like so down on them, and it's just you don't have to love everything, and you don't have to be positive about everything. But you can talk about things like an adult, and there isn't enough of that in games.
So I'm very critical of things. Like I say that up front. Like it honestly, like the reason I think I connected with Beyond so quickly was because more of Colin than Greg. Like I appreciate Colin's critical nature of the industry so much, and that's something that's how I was for years before I ever found like his voice in the industry. I'm like, oh yes, like I totally agree with this. And I think you need to find a balance of, I think it's important to be critical of developers as companies. Like, is this a good move or bad move business wise? And so often I that's what I try to do on this show. Like I was so down on Nintendo last week as a company. Like I think they made some flat out stupid business decisions, and I made sure that my conversation reflected that. But at the same time, like personally, like I'm still very excited for the Switch. I'm excited to play those games. And I think that you can have that divide. Like you can feel empathetic, like you said, like towards people in games or things like that. But you can also, I think it is so important to be critical of the businesses themselves.
Absolutely. And be critical of the games themselves too. Like, it's, I totally agree with you, and I too am very critical, and I think I've become more critical of how people talk about games. I just there's so little sense to it as of late, but like I don't know, it's a complicated thing, and I think that's why it's great that there are so many different personalities out there in the industry. There need to be more and more diverse kinds of people doing those things for sure, but. Yeah, that's kind of like what I feel I bring to the table.
So kind of going off of that, it's kind of part two, I guess, of my topic. Like, where do you think, this is something I've been talking a lot about lately with people who are trying to break into the industry. Like, where do you think it's going? Because this is the thing I'm trying to chart, is I try to find and navigate my way and maybe cut out a niche for myself in the industry. Like, the advent of video and Twitch and things like that has been so like, that's been such a revelation to me, showing me like, okay, like things are going to be way different 5 years from now. And I'm trying to figure out like where written pieces are going to be. Like those will never go away or anything, obviously. But like, I don't know, where do you think the industry is trending in? Like, what are you trying to do specifically to like break into it or whatever?
I mean, like, since day one, I've been building this portfolio, and like there's a point where like that becomes less useful because you just already have such a quantity of work, right? Like Irrational Passions, when it was incepted, was always like, this is my living portfolio, this is my gateway into the industry. It was never going to be like its own thing. It is its own thing, but like. And it is a thing that will continue, hopefully, once I get into the industry as like more of a fun thing. and be itself and continue to be weird and out there. But it is also like, you know, I am committed to that way more than a lot of the other people that have come and gone through it. And it is where the bulk of my work lives. And I've been lucky enough to be able to let that be a home for people to bring and share their ideas as well. But so that's always been that for me, that I'm building a portfolio and I'm using that to get more jobs and more opportunities in the industry. Like Irrational Passions has gotten me to PAX, which has gotten me in front of people, which has let me make friends with a lot of people. And for me, like, I think the subscription-based model, kind of like in a weird way, is kind of back to magazines, but the subscription-based model is where it's at right now, right? Like the Easy Ally is kind of funny Patreon stuff.
Yeah.
Giant Bomb's got subscriptions. Like they're the ones that are doing it best right now in video games, as far as I'm concerned. Because they have specific content to a specific audience, and they're killing it, right? They are killing what their audience wants. Those three, Easy Eyes, Kind of Funny, Giant Bomb. Easy Eyes is easily the small dog out of the three, and there are a few other ones that are doing really great with that stuff as well, that I'm not as privy to. I think that bubble is going to pop at some point.
You do.
Where people, like, think about it, like your whole thing is dependent on Patreon or subscribers, right? And if people just start pulling out from underneath of that, like that's all gone.
I think it could pop if new groups start coming in and they aren't doing the subscription-based model. Then people start putting their eyes on that content instead of
it shifts,
Kind of Funny or something like that.
Like, I don't think a group like Kind of Funny is ever going to lose in that market, just because like they were some of the big first ones in it, and they've obviously they're good.
There's an established community that we're all part of. So.
Yeah, they're fine. They'll be fine for a while. Video, like Twitch was big, and now it's like evened out, right? Like streamers and everything. I think like the thing I see happening is it's just continuing to grow, right? Like they're just continuing to be more avenues and more sites and more places where people can go, and there are more people playing video games now than ever. And it's just going to keep getting bigger. Like, I don't think that's ever going to change. Like, from here to the end of it, to the end of video games, to our dark apocalyptic future without video games, like, it's just going to keep getting bigger. Like, Glixel just launched, Waypoint just launched. 2 huge video game websites just launched in 2016. And that's Rolling Stones and Vice. Like, these are 2 big companies with new video game websites. And they just launched. And there's going to be probably another one this year. Polygon's not that old on top of that, you know.
Polygon's not very old at all.
Yeah, I was at the panel where they announced the name of Polygon at PAX East. So
that's cool.
Like, yeah. And like a lot of people that founded that have come and gone, you know. So,
Brian Crescente launched Polygon, didn't he?
Yeah. He's at Verge now, or whatever their parent company is.
Yeah, he still does Polygon every now and then.
Yeah,
he bounces around. He's that dude knows what's up. That guy's real smart.
So I see like YouTube's gonna keep getting bigger, although it's kind of plateaued a little bit. But, Twitch is gonna keep getting bigger. That's also kind of plateaued. Patreon will continue to get bigger, and then maybe something a new kind of way to consume video games, video game related content will come along.
I think it is gonna get like way more niche, and I'm curious to see when like an Xbox type thing rises up, because I feel like Kind of Funny is so associated with PlayStation, like for obvious reasons. But I feel like there's no niche Xbox thing really right now, as weird as that is. I see everything personally just kind of breaking down, and I don't want to say I don't want to say I'm worried about like the IGNs or anything like that, because IGN's always going to be a thing. IGN's always going to be a website, but I think it's going to get to a point where they are going to have to expand so much that games are still the main thing to come for. But how long is it? Like Danny O'Dwyer had a great video he put up on NoClip the other day. It was just like a vlog or whatever. It was like a month or 2 ago, where he talked about part of the reason why he wanted to get out of GameSpot was because he sees that their entire business model is built up on ad revenue, which he knows is going to come crashing down at some point, because the margins on ad revenue are getting so slim that it's just going to get to a point where they aren't profitable, and they're going to have to create so many different avenues on their site. Like, the thing he brought up was, he says he thinks all the big sites, like that's why they've gone to comics. That's why they've gone to movies. That's why they've gone to all these different forms of media, or not forms of media. That's why they've found all these other different avenues to talk about stuff. Like, he thinks it'll only be a matter of time till like IGN and GameSpot has like sports coverage or something like that, which isn't out of the realm of possibility, because you need to draw more eyes to the site and things like that. So the ad revenue stuff has me really like concerned going forward. And that's why I think Patreon has been such a revelation, because it is like a subscription, like, oh yeah, I'll $1 a month or whatever, and you get 12 Game Informer issues. Okay. Like, ship off your card, except it's through Patreon. Like, it is the modern game subscription. And I think that's really going to work for a while, but I am interested to see if it does end up popping, like you said. I feel like there's something new is going to come around.
Exactly. Someone will replace it.
Something new is going to come around that's not yet a thing, and that'll be why it pops. Because currently in the current state of the industry, I have no idea why it would collapse on itself.
Yeah.
But
it's fine. Like, I'm good with it. Like, I'm paying about $6 a month to about 4 Patreons. I'm good with it. Like,
yeah, same here.
I'm having a good time, getting plenty of stuff. I'm enjoying the personalities that I like, and if I was paid more, I'd probably pay more of those subscriptions. And I'm just like in a good spot, and I like that. Like, I enjoy being able to support creators like that. And I am definitely, as a creator, I think you empathize with creators more, and everyone is becoming a creator. Everyone is starting a podcast. Everyone is making something now.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, then you're just looking at literally everyone else around you, and they are. So, and it's weird because, like, again, I started my thing in 2010 where there were a lot, but I've watched almost all those ships crash and burn. Like, all of those things that were also starting in 2010 have stopped. And now there's just more of everything else. And like IP, just keep on sailing, trucking this old ship, don't stop for nothing.
And I'm sure that, I mean, there's something special to be said about that.
Yeah,
for sure.
it's, we're coming up on 7 years in July, right? And it's like, whew, man. Like, I remember when I started listening to the Bombcast, it was like 2 years old. And then I remember, like, when IP started, or like when we hit our 1 year, it was like 7 years old. And it's like, I'm going to be there soon. Like, it's kind of cool.
It's definitely fun. It's a fun thing. Like, keeps you grounded too. Like, that's what I've enjoyed about this podcast so much, is like it forces me to keep paying attention to everything in games. Like, it's something you got to do every week, and you got to hop on a mic and talk about things, and you can't just get lazy about it or whatever. And that's the one thing that I know Max and myself setting this up, like we set out to do, was just every week. And we weren't good at that for the first year, but we've gotten good at it the last 6, 7, 8 months. I don't think we've taken a break since June, really. And if we did, it was maybe 1 week over Christmas, and that was it. Yeah. So it's definitely a grind. I don't know. Games are, I don't know. That's why I started this show, though. Like, I enjoy talking about the industry stuff more than I do the games per se. Like, I enjoy breaking down a game and talking about The Last Guardian with you or whatever, but I enjoy analyzing the businesses and the industry as a whole, and what's the new avenues through whatever we're going to be getting new content, new games, or new games coverage, things like that. Like, that's why I've always been into this industry, and those are the things I like to talk about. And I don't have many personal friends that I talk about those things with. So
neither do I. I have none.
That's the hard part. Like, how long did it take you with IP to find other people to like podcast with, or other things like that?
I mean, like, I wanted to start a podcast since I was like 14. I started when I was 17, ultimately. I was lucky, right? Like, we were part of this kind of niche community called VG Evo. And I was following their podcast for about a year. And some of my friends from those podcasts are off doing cool stuff. Like, VG Evo is home to a podcast called Interactive Distractions. And one of the hosts there works at Giant Bomb now. So that was cool. Like, that's like a cool little connection thing from that old family that happened. And like, we were just watching one of their live podcasts one night, and I was watching it with two of my friends, Evan and Scott, and I was like, we should do this. And then they're like, yeah, we should. And then I roped them into it.
You're like, yes, finally, I found people to commit.
Yeah. And it, like, we've had hosts come and go. Like, we brought on a fourth, Joe, in like September of that year that we started. And then he left after episode 100. So he's not a full-time host anymore. And like Tony came on a little after that. And Nabashin came on like a year later. So like we've grown. We might be bringing on more people soon, so stay tuned for that. So I like it, we've grown a little bit, and it's been a cool place. Like writers have come and gone as well. So like we've had writing teams, and then now we have like kind of like a second generation of writing team, and
yeah,
it's cool to see people come and share their work and write cool things for the site, and then go on to do bigger and better things.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. You guys do good work over there. I like it. I was ducking in a little bit last night and listening to the podcast and jumping in and out while you guys were doing it.
Yeah, we have a good time at the very least. We go on for too long.
That's the thing is, I don't know how many people you guys reach every week or anything like that, but this show reaches not very many people at all. You could probably almost count them on your fingers and toes, but it's just fun. Like that's why I do it more than anything else.
You got to do it for you, man. Like if you're doing it just to be instantly popular from the get go, like for God only knows, IP does not get that many listeners for sure. But like it's grown a lot in the last year because I have met so many people just out and about, and they like me enough that they listen to that show. And I am like I'm the most out there of all the personalities on our show. I'm the guy that's in it to win it. Like I'm in it for the games industry job. I don't know anyone else that's on the show that really wants that. Which makes it an interesting dynamic though. And they bring a little bit more. They care. They talk about the industry like I do, but they are maybe not in it to get a full-time job in it. Especially not covering games. If anything, it would be making games. So like I have brought more people to that show, and they have all kind of cross-pollinated, and it's been a fun thing.
That's what I've been learning a little bit more the past 6 months is, hey, I have a podcast. I can just randomly ask people to come on my podcast, and then boom, I record with somebody. I mean, like this right here. Like I didn't really know who you were until a couple of weeks or months ago, not personally at least. So
and then we met at PSX.
Yeah, and then now we're podcasting together. So. It's how it all shakes down, and hopefully we'll have some more people on this show, and hopefully I get on your show at some point. Love to set that up with you at some point, whenever. I don't know.
And it's fun, like, podcasting with other hosts is like some of the best stuff. Like that's always like been the core of IP is like a rotating fifth chair, and we have so many guests on, and we bring a lot. Brings a lot of different voices to the show, and it's a fun way to kind of grow and to change as well. For sure, get me on there sometime. We'll have fun. Oh, yeah. We'll record for 3 or 4 hours or however the crazy long you guys go. Jesus Christ. This one's been pretty long now that I'm looking at it. I'm about 2.5. I feel bad.
No, it's fine. I actually, if Max was here, he likes to keep it between 60 and 90. And I don't care how long it goes at all. Yeah. I could talk about this crap all night. But yeah, we'll get you out of here because I know you probably want to go try to kill that boss in Neo or something like that.
I'm going to try that. I'm going to get some dominoes. It's going to be a good night.
I need to beat that Clockwork Mansion. See how that is. Clockwork Tower, whatever it is.
Clockwork Mansion, you're right.
Is it the mansion? Yeah. We'll do that. Is that where you get the thing that allows you to travel between time?
No, there's another mansion level that lets you do that.
That's probably the one.
That's the best level in the game.
Okay. That's what I'm looking forward to. So yeah, 7.
I think you get a little bit, so.
I'm looking forward to that one. Let's wrap up episode 77. Thank you so much to everybody for listening this week. Appreciate it as always. You can find the show, of course, on iTunes and SoundCloud. Oh, and we're on Google Play now. Got on Google Play this past week. I don't know why we didn't do that before. It took literally 3 minutes. So we're on Google Play now. So if you have an Android or whatever, you can listen to the show that way now. So subscribe, leave a review, all that good stuff. That always helps us. Twitter accounts. Yeah, Twitter accounts. You can find the show. It's at MGS Podcast. I am at Moreman12. Alex, you are at
Alfighter27. So nailed it.
follow Alex there. I thought it was that, but I couldn't remember.
Mm-hmm.
You can email the show with any questions, comments, or concerns you may have at mgspodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. If you want to come on the show sometime, hit us up there, anything like that. We don't care. No one ever emails us except for that one guy, except for that one kid who told us he really liked Super Mario Sunshine or something like that one time. So
hell yeah.
So I think his name was Andrew. Andrew, you're a cool kid. But yeah, I think that's it for episode 77. Alex, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for responding to my tweet 24 hours ago or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to do
it. We had a good conversation. So.
Good conversation. I always like that this show is one-on-one for the most part. It's a little bit more intimate. It can get crazy sometimes. We've done 4 or 5 people episodes, but 2 people episodes are always solid. And
I haven't lived until you've done a podcast with 7 people on it. That's
Have you've done that?
Oh yeah. It's fun when you do it in the same room. That can be all right, but it's a lot.
I've wanted to actually start a show for a while with like 6 of my friends, but I'd have to buy all the equipment and crap like that, and it would probably be really scary. I'd be really horrified to see what the end product is like.
Oh yeah, explicit, I'm sure.
Probably. So yeah, thanks for coming on. You can follow Alex's work over there at Rational Passions. We've talked about it this episode. I don't know if you want to plug anything before we do leave or anything.
Yeah, I mean, just did a whole bunch of Game of the Year stuff. It's all on irrationalpassions.com. Kind of end cap to that was an episode of Alex Talks, which is my video editorial show.
It's really good. Go watch it.
Yeah, I did my top 10 games list. There's now 5 episodes of that out there. I think they're all pretty good. If I do say so myself. Your one
about first time playthroughs was awesome. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah. Was it the Chasing Video Game Dragons?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. That one's good. That was like an idea that was like burning a hole in my head for so long too. It was good to get that out there. Yeah, that's a fun show. It's editorial driven. It's, just opinion and thesis, and I have a good time with it, even if it kills me a little bit to make an episode. How long do you stew on those before you actually record them? I'd written those because I've been writing every day for like 700 or something days. I don't know. So like I had written those, chipped away at those months and months and months ago. So I'd been sitting on them for a while. It takes me about 2 weeks to produce the whole show. So I take 1 week to finally go through the script, edit it, add it, rewrite it if I need to. Like the Experience one, I just ended up rewriting the whole thing the week before. And then I shoot it, and then I take the next week to edit it. So it's like a full 2-week production. So I don't know. It takes about a week to write an episode of that. I've been wanting to actually, I've got the green screen behind me. I've been wanting to do a show exactly like that for a really long time. Before I even knew you did one yourself. Like that's been an idea that I've had, just to talk to this camera scripted show. Similar to Colin is Right and all those scripted talk to the camera one-on-one shows. Like I've been wanting to do that for a while and trying to set it up. Well, nothing to announce today on the show, but something I'm working on in the background. The chief inspiration for that show is the PBS Idea channel. If you want to check that out, you'll get a lot of context for where my ideas came from, at least. And yeah, they're fun. They're a lot of work though, but they're a lot of fun. It's definitely a good product once it's out. Like I appreciate that. I comb through your YouTube channel. That was the stuff that I liked the most. That, and I somehow ended up watching one of your random Paper Mario 1000-Year Door Let's Plays one time for like 2 minutes. Yeah. I do a lot of dumb voices in the Let's Play. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. So anyway, irrationalpassions.com. Go find Alex O'Neill's work over there, as well as the work of many others, and listen to their podcast and all that other good stuff. But Alex, again, thanks for coming on. Really appreciated it. Thank you, man. Feel free to come back some other time if Max is ever around and you guys can talk about Donald and Goofy or whatever the heck it is you do. Yeah. I always criticize Kingdom Hearts so much, but I do actually love it. So needs more Goofy in it. There's that, but just needs more Goofy. Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much for listening this week, guys. As always, if you did listen to this far at the end, I have no idea if you did, but please come back next week with episode 78. I think we are having I don't even remember who's coming on. So we'll have another guest on next week. So feel free to come back next week and listen to that. But until then, thanks a lot. Have a good week. Love you. Bye-bye.